All right, let me turn myself up a little bit. Thank you, sir. We're just waiting for some people to trickle in and better, nice. And then we'll jump right into it here in a few seconds. Did everyone want to introduce themselves real quick? We'll go left to right here. Cole to underground.
Someone else go. I'm sending out notifications for you.
Gotcha.
Well, I'll
Uh,
go as far as that goes then. Uh, I stream under Mixed Nuts. My name is Matthew. It's great to be here. Primarily a Project Zomboid streamer. Also a father of three at this point, stepfather, depending on whether or not that's a differentiation you really make or not. I've been raising them all as mine since they were very, very young. So that's not one of those things that I usually even state to. But like I said, I have adult children at this point 25, 23, 21. So
wow.
the perspective on having them back in and out of the house as adults is a totally different thing than what you deal with when they are little. You know, people that have made their own choices and moved out on their own, you can't talk to the same way that you used to. It doesn't fly.
That's gonna be something I'm gonna have to deal with.
Yeah.
That's gonna be hard for me.
It was hard for me as first as well too, but if you've done your job appropriately, then you'll find that that's a lot easier than you think because they think like you do, at least to a degree.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Awesome. So, Chuck, what are you all about, big dog?
My name is Underground Tavern. I just started it, what, 2 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run my first game hopefully within the next month or two, and that will be like the kickoff stream. Beyond that, I am also a father of three. I have two biological boys. My daughter we adopted when she was 12, although through processes she didn't move in until she was 13. But we adopted her when she was 12. Their ages are 11, 13, and 17. So that's a very interesting age. We're doing homeschooling right now. At least my two boys are.
Ooh, interesting.
My daughter's a junior. She's like, I just want to finish out my last two. I'm like, okay. The other two are like, we we do two subjects a day, Monday through Thursday, and then if we have nothing to do, we get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off.
Sounds like the life.
It's not hard. They still have their friends that come over from school and
Mhm.
stuff. So I mean, they still get that interaction.
Yeah.
Was that something you guys started because of COVID and continued, or you'd already?
No, part of it was bullying at the school.
Oh,
I kept getting calls saying that this kid was pushing, or Gabriel kept telling me, my youngest, oh, this kid's keeps pushing me down. I'm like, what's he doing? He's like, he's putting his foot behind me and pushing me over, and then like he'll like roll me around the dirt. I'm like, okay. So I told him, try to walk away the first time. If that doesn't work, defend yourself.
Mhm.
I mean, if you could see the other wall, I've done martial arts my entire life. I know how to fight. He knows how to fight. I did more MMA over the past 10 years than anything else, but he knows how to fight. And then finally I get a call. I went up to the school. I was like, hey, I've now told him to defend himself because the school doesn't want to do anything.
Mhm.
And I got a call that afternoon. I said, what happened? And they're like, well, Gabriel hit this kid in the nose and then he punched him in the face. I was like, okay, what did the kid do first? He's like, well, Gabriel said he pushed him down, but the teachers didn't see that. I was like, of course they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's just stuff like that. And then like my daughter was getting harassed by kids of the ball team. Well, Mammoth is a small school. They don't really have a football team, so they have like baseball and basketball. So the ball kids get away with whatever they want because that's the only freaking sport they have.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, look around. The schools aren't as safe as they used to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
No, not at all.
That's another really big part of it.
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a bummer.
definitely some topics that we're gonna want to touch on today. Definitely, especially nowadays. Everything's all crazy. Cool. Are you ready to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Cole. Mystical, stupid nickname I got in like seventh grade.
I actually kind of dig it. So.
Yeah, and I
It
brought it
works.
back. I brought it back about a year ago when I started gaming more and getting on Twitch and everything. So so that's fine. And I have two sons, two boys that are 16 and 7.
What a
What a range.
Yeah, that's a bit of a
Well,
jump.
and so similarly, the oldest is my stepson, and I've been dad effectively since around 4 with him.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so yeah, I don't normally clarify that either, depending on
Yeah,
but maybe it's
all 3 of us are fathers to children that are not ours.
yeah. No, I thought that was interesting
no,
too.
absolutely,
I
yeah.
liked that. I liked that.
No, it's pretty cool. I like it.
And so do you want me to tell you what I do, or does that matter?
Yeah. What are you all about, man?
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I game. I got back into gaming actually during COVID. With my kids, we started playing Minecraft.
Mhm.
And man, that's arguably still one of the best games ever.
I couldn't get the hang of it, man. Like they still play it from time to time, and I'm just like, I don't get it.
It's one of those games that it just traverses, ages, and
Mhm.
I think it'll stand the test of time too.
There's something in it for everyone.
I
Yeah.
ran an entire D&D campaign off of a Minecraft world that me and my sons put together, built, and then used. Like, obviously, I put it to I set it to have mobs, but nobody was going to actually get attacked by them. And anytime a mob wandered within reach, that was where I would throw an encounter at somebody.
Oh,
That's
wow.
awesome.
That's really
I mean,
cool.
I ran an entire D&D campaign based off of that.
Well, and so
that's really sick.
that's why that game is so great. Is the community that surrounds it has done so much with it as well.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
see, I got back into gaming, a couple years ago, and started working from home. I'm a consultant for like tech companies, cannabis companies. I used to own and operate a cannabis company out here in Nevada, and that shut down about a year ago. And so since I've just been consulting, and so I kind of been living a completely different and good life for the last year or so. I've been self-employed since I can remember, and continue to. So yeah, it's kind of nice. And now I actually get to do the dad stuff that I've missed out on the last decade or so.
Yeah, for sure.
So I worked a lot, and so now I actually get to take my kid to school and pick him up and do homework with him.
Yeah, that stuff's that's great because like I'm 100% disabled from the military, so I'm a house dad. So,
Okay.
I mean, the homeschool and everything, it works. So like we were getting that disconnect because they'd be in school 8 hours a day. When they come home, they're drained.
Yeah.
They just added like 40 minutes to the school day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So you want these kids to sit in class and absorb 8 lessons, 1 hour each. That's not going to work. You need to spend a couple hours on each lesson and break it down by day. That's how we do it home. But it's nuts.
That doesn't pay the teachers union the way that they want to do that. Though. They need less teachers that way, and then
yeah,
darn. Well, you know what? They're not paying the teachers crap anyway.
This is true.
Right.
I mean, honestly, because I was going to be a history teacher when I got out of the military. I was like, I'm gonna hit up my history college. I'm gonna hit up all this stuff. I'm gonna be a history teacher, and I'm like, dude, they make way less than I'm making now.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
They may make less than a disabled veteran.
Yeah, that's not saying a lot. Like veterans,
Yeah.
they don't, and I'm not just saying this because I am one, but I've always had a love for veterans. They don't get enough credit. But I mean, if somebody attacks the homeland, who's the first people that's going to start grabbing shit, setting up little teams of people? The damn veterans.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
We got our guys in the water over here.
That and the JROTC.
He knows how to do water shit. I know how to come in from I did the army, so I mean.
Yeah, there we go.
You
I
guys
was
are
your own
guys
little
that know how to blow
militia.
shit up. Yeah,
I
exactly.
was nuclear submarines, man.
Oh no! See, that's
Oh,
the
Uh,
guys you want to
do
make
you still
friends
have
with.
one of those in your backyard?
No.
Oh,
If
damn.
I can get set up, if I can get set up with the solar panel setup that I want, there will be a battery from one of them hooked up in my backyard if I can do it though.
Those things are huge.
Oh, yeah, but I already know how to maintain that style of
The
battery.
size
I
of a
don't.
table. Well, yeah, you worked on him. You know what you're doing. All right. I'd burn this shit down. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Well, that's good introductions. Of course, I am Nate from Viva La Vega. We're having dad talk today. So thanks everyone for joining in here. We got tons of people. And then Cole Dimension mentioned that you quit gaming after you played Pico Park with us.
Oh god, I actually just uninstalled that game yesterday.
Good.
Because every now and then I go through and I clean up just random stuff, and I saw it, and it just brought back a flood of that frustration.
We're just about to ask you to do another round with us.
I mean, it's fun. I see right now I'm far enough removed to where
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like, that was a good time. But I know in the moment I hated every one of you.
Yeah, it's like Monopoly. Everyone starts the game
Yeah.
off having fun, but then everyone towards the end of it wants to be at each other's throats.
Mhm.
We hated us too. Awesome.
That's
So I
good.
guess we can just jump right into it. So the first question I have in here was, have you always wanted to be a father? I think that's a really interesting thing because since I was a kid, I never really wanted to be like an astronaut. I wanted to be an archaeologist because Jurassic Park. But other than that, like I always wanted to be a dad. Like that was the job that I wanted. Did you guys ever
Crazy.
have those? Yeah, it's kind of nuts for like, a kid to be thinking like that. Have you guys always wanted to be a father?
No.
Uh,
And it's not like I don't want to be,
yeah, no,
but
absolutely.
never I never really thought about it. Was never really planned, and especially once I started dating a woman that had a son, I was immediately sort of thrown into it. So I don't think I really had time to want to be a dad, or but I never didn't want to be a
Mhm.
dad. It just
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
something I
Just didn't
ever.
cross your mind.
Yeah.
See, and I was raised in, for the time frame for me in the early 80s, a kind of non-typical household. Like yourself, Tavern, my dad was a stay-at-home dad for the entire time. My mother was a nurse. My dad didn't have much college. She made way more money than my dad did, so she was the one working all the time, and he was home. And I watched that growing up, and I enjoyed the time that I got to spend with my dad doing that. So for me, yes, I've wanted to be a father from the time that I could think
Mm-hmm.
coherently. About 25 or so is when that actually really happens for
Right.
most people. You know, I have wanted to be a father. And for me, in a lot of cases, I didn't think that that was going to happen. I mean, I made a decision a long time ago because of some health related issues in my family and genetic stuff that I wasn't going to have kids of my own.
Mm-hmm.
And I did that because there's a huge addiction problem within my family. There's huge hereditary mental health issues within my family. And I wasn't going to carry that forward if I didn't have to,
Mm-hmm.
but, and
Interesting.
I thought for a long time that that wasn't going to be something that was going to be in the cards for me really at all. I'm glad that I was totally wrong with that. Just like you found out, just like I did, there are plenty of women out there with kids of their own that really do need parents to help them out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And yeah, that's where I ended up, and I've never really looked back. It's been great, even when it's been really hard at times.
Yeah.
Sure.
I think I'm right in the middle of you two, actually. I knew at some point, I figured I probably would be. I did
It was just going to be a thing that happened.
since high school. So, I mean, I figured that was a thing that was probably going to happen eventually. But I can't say I was ready for it. I'm not going to lie. Like, she was off birth control for not a week. And it took. Yeah.
That was us too.
Yeah, I was in the military and we were home on leave. Whatever happened. She ran out of birth control. She's like, "Oh, I've been out for like 2 years. It'll carry over." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure." It made sense to me. And then she went and got a lady checkup. We went and had Chinese on our way home, and she ignored the call while we were sitting there, and then says, "Don't take the birth control. You're pregnant." And we're like, shit. Like we pulled off like in the middle of the road, like the little yellow. We're like, "Holy shit, what do we do?" And she's like, "First, we need to get off the road and go home." So go back to the apartment. We kind of just processed for a minute.
Yeah.
We gave we hugged for a while, and then I was like, "All right, you call your people, I'll call my people."
Wow.
And it pissed me off. And the selfish part of me came out because I was like 2 weeks away from getting a crotch rocket. I was 20, like,
not anymore.
Yeah, how old?
23.
Okay.
22, 23, something like that.
Yeah, that's pretty young.
Crotch rocket. Now I'm like, oh.
Can't do that.
Gay crib.
Yep.
Crib, car seat, diapers.
Yeah. Do you want a ninja or do you want a kid? Or
Well, I think
crib? Yeah.
Funny
He wanted the ninja.
Yeah, you wanted
funny
the
enough,
ninja.
during my first
but
deployment,
he got a crib.
right. Funny enough, like Gavin was born in October, and I deployed in December, like the 28th. And then like halfway through, my sergeant was like, "Hey, I'm selling my." He was like advertising to sell his motorcycle on his his like Facebook and MySpace, whatever. And I got to looking at it. I was like, "Huh?" And I went over to his room. I was like, "You selling your bike?" He goes, "Yeah." I was like, "I want to buy it." And I gave him 2,800, like when he came home on leave, because we had like 9 days we were home at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then I gave him the rest in Afghanistan, like the last half when I got home. And he handed me the title, the key.
Hey, there we go.
So I got that.
So
I don't have that
best
anymore
of both
now.
worlds.
You got the bike
Yeah.
too.
Not anymore.
Wow.
Not that bike.
Was it?
Um,
Well, there we go. So, like, when you had that first realization, Cole and Mixed, like, when you first heard, like, "Hey, I'm gonna be a dad," I guess it's a little different for you guys because your first children were kind of brought in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, what was your thought process when you were dating someone who had kids already? Like, what was kind of your idea behind that?
I don't know how much thought processes really went into that for me. I knew that I had found a woman that I was absolutely head over heels for already at that point, and it was more of the, well, this is the situation. How do I make the best out of it for both myself, the woman that I'm, involved with, and as I started immediately referring to her as my daughter.
Yeah.
This was not a real thought process for me. It was more just step into a role. And people say a lot of things about some people are good with instinct and they can just go on stuff. I tend to be okay with that. I usually tend to want to think things fully through, though, before I act on them. Kind of that methodical stuff of being stuck in a submarine for a long period of time. Oops, I made a simple mistake. Well, that simple mistake can kill you if you're not careful in those kind of situations. And I've kind of carried that forward into the way that I try to do and live my life. With this situation, though, there was no real thought because it was such an emotional thing. Well, look, I am going to get to be able to be a dad, whether I made that choice or not, and just go with it. My daughter Janelle was just starting second grade when me and her mom started dating seriously. We went from the we've seen each other here and there, catching her at work, things as far as that goes, to, well, when are we moving in together kind of thing. And that kind of a situation. As soon as that situation changed over to that, it becomes a whole different thing because, and to be honest, at that time frame, we moved in together, not necessarily because we had decided that was the best thing for all of us, but it was a financial decision. Sure. My wife was working nights at the time. And if anybody's ever paid daycare for when you have to pick your kid up at 2 o'clock in the morning at the end of bar 30, it is I was able to quit the full-time job that I had, and we were better off income-wise simply by eliminating that childcare by me moving into the house.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Childcare
Wow.
It's ludicrous.
ridiculous.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, similar actually. I I went into it for a woman, right? And came out of it with a kid as well. And so I was also younger. I was a different person too. So I wasn't thinking the same. It was more, where's this relationship going? And then once we moved in together, we sort of had those more of those conversations, more of those like thought out things. And you just
old-
it just
How old were you, Cole?
happens. God, so I'm 38. And we started dating maybe like 13 years, so 25.
Okay, see, I was 29 already at the point in time where I got
Oh,
involved
wow.
with my wife. So
And well, this was just dating. We dated long distance for about a year. And then she moved to the town that I'm currently in after that. And then, so maybe a couple years went by and then we moved in together. And we dated for 5 years before we got married. So there was, a good amount of time in between all of this. But yeah, just kind of, at least with with my oldest, there wasn't a lot of thought into, now I'm a dad. It kind of just happened, and you see yourself changing. You see yourself, um, I don't know, going to the kids museum on the weekends instead of pub crawls, right?
Right,
Like
right.
it just, those things just sort of start taking over. And then when I found out about my youngest, because we did plan on it, um, but same thing, she was off birth control for a week, and she said, well, the first time it took me months or maybe even a year to to get pregnant. So she's like, don't, it's going to take a while. And yeah, boom. So
A
within
week.
within a week or two, effectively.
Well, yeah,
And
'cause, like,
and I was excited, but I think more than anything, what was really exciting was our oldest at the time. He was, I mean, I don't know, 8 years old, 8 or 9. He wanted a brother, or he wanted, a sibling.
mhm.
And so the more exciting thing was being able to tell him
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well, like,
Oh, wow.
you're gonna have a brother. So we found out and we were excited, but we were planning it, so it wasn't a huge, surprise. But telling him was really cool.
Wow.
Oh, I bet.
How'd you tell him? What did you like? Do a whole big
Nah, I mean,
whole
we
big
just
thing?
told him,
Yeah.
like, hey, remember how you keep asking for a brother? Because this was a thing that he kept
Mm-hmm.
kept
Yeah,
on
yeah.
for a while. Well, you're gonna have one. And he didn't really believe it at first, but also, maybe he was
Yeah.
7 or 8. I forgot the pregnancy time frame. So, but yeah, he was super excited, and that was fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's interesting hearing stuff like that, because you see a lot now where people on social media and stuff will point out how, like, it's almost like a hassle to date a woman who already has kids, because it's like taking up your resources, and then when you have kids, you're still, I've just seen that around, and it shows that, like, if you're with someone and you love them and you love their, everything about them and all whatever baggage they have, then it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. You can still be a family, and it doesn't have to be like a competition between your biological kids and your step kids, because at the end of the day, it's all your kids. I think that that's really nice.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I made a joke this morning because my son said, "You're the best dad in the world, and you're the best mom in the world,"
Mm-hmm.
which is true, obviously. And then, and he said, and I said, "Ah, you're not too bad." And he said, "Huh?" You know, like, come
Mhm.
on. Like, he wanted me
Yeah,
to say
yeah.
that he was the best kid in the world. And I said, well, normally I wouldn't differentiate between you and your brother. But
Mhm.
after yesterday's events, you're definitely the best kid in the world. And he's like,
Yeah.
Oh
and
my
he
God,
actually
tell me
got
about
grumpy
it.
with that. My youngest, he was like, "No, you love us equally, right?" And so yeah, I mean, you don't see him like that at all. At least
Mhm.
myself after a period of time.
Right,
My
right.
oldest, his car broke down on the side of the road because he's an idiot yesterday.
Now,
So I had to pick it up, and yeah,
Right,
long
do all
story,
do
but
all the do all
Kids
the
are
stuff.
dumb.
maintenance issue that he didn't take care of the way he was supposed to. Mhm.
yep,
I'm
didn't.
glad that I haven't had to do that with either of my boys. They fought so hard to be able to pay for their own vehicles when they did that they have done their damnedest to take care of them well.
Nice.
You know,
That-
he paid for his own and has done his damnedest to destroy it. So
At
I
least he paid for it, not you.
I envy you there for sure.
Oh,
that's such a dad problem to have. Just like,
Like-
well, kid's got a car. I guess I'm gonna have to fix it every week.
Like,
I don't mind fixing it. Yeah, I just don't want to have to go pick it up and try and drive it back on, with no
Uh-huh.
power steering and smoke
Oh,
billowing out the
jeez.
back. And
yeah, see,
That's a rough one.
like, going back to, I guess, motorcycles now, I got like a Harley, but anyway, like, I'm the president of my own chapter out here in Arkansas of our motorcycle club. So my daughter wanted a bike, and for like her end of the school year last year, we got her a bike. Oh my God.
yeah, that's nutty.
I got her in first gear. It's like she's scared to shift. So I was like, you know what? I can teach you everything you need to know, but you get your license when? December, cool. Probably come spring, I'll take you up to the Harley dealership and you used to go through the course there. Because
Yeah.
she's got no concept on how to shift, how to clutch then shift and let go of the clutch. She gets it, but I can't take her ass on the road. She won't get
No.
it fast enough, and she's gonna end up in the ditch. And we can't have that. So I mean, the way she drives, I'm so scared come December when she gets her license and is by herself. Because like there's one
You
stop
should
sign, like when
be.
you're turning onto our road, when you turn in, there's like a drop off, so you have to like turn just right. But if you go too far, you're gonna nail the stop sign. I swear to you, one day I sat in the back. I was going to see how close she gets, and she made that turn, and it was wide. I reached over and I smacked the sign. Like my hand wasn't even like extended. It was like right here. I reached over and slapped it, and she was like, "Oh God, what was that?" I was like, "Your ass too close to the sign." I was like, "Start turning before," and like, I know one day she's gonna hit that freaking sign, and it's gonna get stuck, and a tow truck's gonna come out and like lift it off the freaking sign. It's gonna be bad.
Yeah, that's what's it? My grandfather tried teaching me how to drive, but I was like 8, so I would like sit on his lap and then he'd like have me turn and we just like do circles around in a parking lot. But anytime I'd get close to something, he'd be like, just turn the other way." He versus like my mom driving. The first time I drove with my mom, it was like she was bracing herself the whole time
Oh,
and
God,
screaming
yeah.
at me the entire time. I'm like, you know what? I'm parking. You can drive.
That's
Obviously,
exactly
you
what I
got
did.
this.
We were on our way to school, and she's like, "Meow, meow, meow, meow." I was like, pulled in.
Yep.
I was like, I was like, either you're gonna drive me to school or I'm walking. And she was like, "I'll drive you." I'm like, thank God.
Yeah. All right. Good. Now that we got that settled.
as
It's a
far as
mess.
teaching the kids to drive, my wife has a driving phobia. She absolutely, I mean, she can do it. She absolutely hates to do so. It terrifies her. And I would not force anyone to do something that terrifies them in that way, other than when it is absolutely necessary.
Like we need to get the hell away from the house.
Yeah. Thankfully, however, that phobia didn't carry across to any of our kids. My daughter
Nice.
is actually, she's actually an excellent driver. Primarily, I drove commercially for quite a number of years after I got out of the military. So sitting down to teach the kids how to drive was like, oh, this isn't even scary. I couldn't tell you how many times driving just down a country road to do a FedEx delivery, somebody'd come up over the top of the hill on the county road, and they are
Yeah.
completely in the wrong lane coming straight at my FedEx truck. And you could tell always the moment that they actually looked up from their phone, because they'd overcorrect and put themselves into the ditch on the other side of the road half the time. And that
Jeez.
means that I got to stop, make sure they're okay, call the cops and a tow truck for them so they can get their asses out of the, because it's policy for the job that I had at that time. If you witnessed an accident, you drive off, you ain't got a job no more. Even
Right.
if you had nothing to do with it whatsoever. Yeah, whether you had nothing to do with it, you still have to stop. You got to make sure they're okay. You got to call the cops and a tow truck for them. I mean, it was a requirement. But teaching the kids how to drive wasn't really much of an issue. Now, trying to convince my wife that she needs to learn how to drive a stick, I've been trying to work on that for 16 years. It's never going to happen.
Yep. Good luck.
Never going to happen.
That's the one
I
thing
actually,
can't stand to do.
so I drove commercial. Well, I mean, I was a courier and have owned logistics companies, and so driving stick is, you know, obviously in the cards. And I was stoked that the first car we got my son was a manual transmission. But he had learned on automatics. And so when we got the car, I had to teach him when we picked it up so that he could actually drive it. So that was fun. He picked it up fairly quickly. It wasn't too bad, but yeah, I mean, that's something that even people our age don't even know how to drive stick, like a lot of them. So I was excited that he actually learned how to drive stick.
Yeah. Well, they aren't really making any stick cars anymore.
No.
You got to special order them.
Right.
Wow.
I mean, you have to
That's
special
pretty
order them.
nuts.
I've only owned 2 vehicles in my life that weren't manual transmission. You have
Right.
so much more control with the manual than you do with an automatic that it's unreal.
Yeah. I've always wanted to learn how to drive stick. Like,
Oh, so you
I
can't
get
drive stick.
I get the concept. I understand the idea of driving stick. I understand how a clutch works and all that stuff because I rode bikes for a while. I know it's different, but like the same concept of like understanding how a clutch works and things like that. I get that. In practice, I've driven a truck down a dirt road once, you know, and that's about it. You know what I mean?
Dirt roads are fun, man.
Yeah.
I actually learned how to drive stick initially on a video game. When I mean I was, I don't know, 8th grade or something, and it was, you know, you got an actual clutch and
Yeah,
pedals
yeah.
and everything. So at very least the concepts.
Right.
I learned on a video
Had
game.
the whole like setup.
Yeah, steering wheel and pedals and shifter,
Yeah.
the whole deal.
I didn't get a choice. My parents are both. I mean, my mom drives an automatic now, you know, at 70, but that's the first automatic vehicle she's ever owned is at 70.
Oh
You
wow.
know, and she decided that more because when she got her knees replaced, pushing in a clutch became painful.
Right.
You know, and it's not as painful now that the knees have actually been fully replaced, healed, and everything with that. But she was just like, I've already got the automatic. I'm not going to trade it in immediately right now, kind of thing.
Right.
But teaching kids to drive is knowing that at that moment that you feel like you want to be white knuckle grabbing a hold of something, and knowing that if you do that, all you're going to do is transmit that
Make everything
level of
worse.
anxiety to your kid is hard.
Yeah.
That's really hard to maintain calm through that so that they can actually, because they're going to make mistakes. I know I made plenty of mistakes driving. I couldn't tell you how
Right.
many times, like you said, dirt roads are fun until you're doing 85 down a dirt road and lose control and your car does this 3 times and ends up in the ditch.
Yeah.
I mean, that ceases to be fun after that.
Yeah, that's always an interesting thing. Like teaching your kids to drive is like such a huge milestone, I feel. You know, because it's like that's a level of independence that the kid now has. You know what I mean? That's really fun. Real quick, I wanted to talk about, you know, we know you as dads now, but who were you before you were a dad? Like what was that like living your life kind of recklessly? You know, you're young and fruitful, and then boom, hit the wall. Now you're a dad. You have to be real responsible. What's that been like? Making that transition.
Oh, I'm a lot then like I am now. If that makes sense.
Sure.
Now that my kids are more self-sufficient, like I said, they're 11, 13, 17. If they want, oh, I'm hungry, go get some food then. I'll have to make it for you. Go get your damn food. But a lot the same, but like in a way you have to change. And once you change, whether it's yours or not, like you gentlemen, like in my daughter, you're gonna change regardless. Your mind changes, the way you think changes. You may have certain aspects of your old personality, but you're really not gonna have this. And I know I'm kind of contradicting myself, but your mind has to change. But I think overall, it's like just kind of like gotten to where I'm like, okay, they're sufficient. Me and the wife are making time for ourselves. I got the motorcycle club stuff I'm doing over here, and I play games with, all my people over here. So
right.
I'm busy, I guess you could say, but at the same time, we still have game nights, we'll have movie nights. And I think as long as you're making efforts to have that connection, you're going to be all right. So, I mean, who I am now and who I am then, it's different. It's so different, but so similar, if that makes sense.
Same, but different.
Yeah, exactly.
I will say being a little bit older when I stepped into fatherhood made a huge difference for me. I had already kind of gotten to the point where it was like, okay, I'm tired of being alone, because I think everyone on the planet can agree that feeling lonely is absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the world that I think anybody that's punishment. That's absolute punishment for everybody who has to experience it.
Oh yeah.
And I'd felt that way probably for a pretty decent number of years already by the time I met the one that was right for me, and knowing that transition, hell, my sister looked at me at one point and said, what is this MILF car you bought? And I looked at her, I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like,
a MILF car?
You're driving a Volkswagen Passat station wagon with more than enough room to haul groceries and 3 kids in. What are you doing?
You're too practical.
Well, at the time, it was a nice car that was cheap enough that I could afford. It crapped out on the side of the road on my wife probably 2 years into our marriage in the middle of a construction zone at 3:00 in the morning.
Oh my God.
In the middle of a 6-hour drive back from where she'd been working. I got that phone call in the middle of the night to grab the other car and drive 40 miles and hook up a tow chain to get it out of the construction zone. While her sister, who was working with her at the time, is passed out asleep in the back of the vehicle. Doris never woke up in the entire time. Hooked up the chain, towed it out of that spot. She slept through the whole damn thing. That was an interesting situation.
Maybe she was sleeping.
She was passed out. She was absolutely passed out. Look, I know my wife won't. This doesn't bother her. She's proud of who she is and how she always been. I met my wife while she was dancing on a pole. I absolutely did. And I remember that moment crystal clear because at the time she was dealing with a bad situation with the guy that she was with. She'd lost a bunch of weight. You could tell that she was underweight a bit at that point. And I turned and looked at the buddy of mine that I was shooting pool with at this club at that point as she came out. Also at the time, her sister Doris, who I didn't know was her sister, is sitting at this same spot. She comes out to go get up on stage, and I'm like, God damn, she's gorgeous, but she needs a sandwich or 6. And Doris turns and she's just staring daggers at me, and I'm just like, what? I'll buy her the sandwiches. I don't give a shit about that.
I'll buy her the sandwiches.
I'll feed the woman.
That was my perspective on that more than anything else. I didn't find out that Doris was her sister until 8 months later.
Oh, no.
At that point, I didn't know that at all. And then I kind of looked over at her and said, no wonder you were so pissed at me. She's just like, we're not going to talk about that, and just walked away from me at that point.
He's out clubbing.
Yeah. that's what I was doing. Lonely guys, they end up out at the bar more often than they should. It's not a good place. It's not necessarily a safe place to end up meeting people all that well. You end up usually finding people that are willing to just take advantage of you. I got lucky. I got amazingly lucky, like I said.
Needle in a haystack.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. What about you, Cole?
Oh man, we don't have enough time for that.
We can take the Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, I was not the same person in any way, but I am 11 years sober at this point.
Hell yeah,
and so
10 months for me right now.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
Clean and sober. This is my only vice now. And we would have fun. I had fun, right? It's funny you mentioned I don't know about funny earlier about the addiction in your family. Same thing. Alcoholism runs rampant in my family. Both sides really, but mostly on my dad's. And I mean, I guess as fucked up as this sounds, I guess I didn't really think about that when having a kid. But I got fucked up every day, all day. And I mean, blacked out, drinking handles of vodka every day, easy. And my girlfriend at the time, my current wife, left me after picking me up from jail at the second time. And that's when I got sober. But she left me because she didn't want her son to have to be around this. And I was never, abusive to her or to him, but
just yourself.
He was with her when she picked me up. He still remembers that day. He still remembers they picked me up from the gas station across the street, and I had 2 Gatorades, right? Because they right when I got out, finally, I was so dehydrated. And but yeah, I was completely different in more ways than just being a dad.
Right.
I would say I'm pretty similar though since I got sober, as far as the same person. But you change as a dad too. So, your kids get older, and now, I mean, you said they can make their own food. They actually like you and play with you when they get old. I mean, when they're super young, it's all mom. Whether out of necessity or it's just a natural thing. They only want mom. They love, that's where their comfort comes from. And so for a while you kind of feel like, all right, well, but then all of a sudden it flips, and then they only want dad, at least with boys. I don't have girls, so I don't know, but with boys, then it becomes like they want to work in the garage with you. They want to, do everything you want to do. And it becomes fun when you can play games with them. And so you start to change with them. Like I said, I used to play games in college, but then I just started working and I stopped gaming, and I was like so consumed by work. And then my kids actually brought me back out of that and showed me how much I really actually enjoy gaming and certain aspects that I lost. So you can, not only are you different obviously before being a dad, but you go through different stages of being a dad, like with your kids as they grow too. And I mean, when they get older, then you can cuss with them, and then, you can watch movies with them that are rated R or whatever. Talk, I don't know.
Right.
We have more adult-ish conversations.
Yeah.
Versus the, hey, how was school? Oh, this game is great. Well, my daughter comes like, this bitch said to me today.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Things that you would never have expected. Yeah. Totally okay at 17. Not okay if that's the comment she made at 9.
Right.
No, like Gavin Gavin's been doing it now for since he was like 11. I'll say cousin, I'm like, hey.
Hey, you cut that out, Dad.
But now, like he's 13, you can tell he's starting to think about it. So he doesn't really say much, and like they watch YouTube videos, and it's funny because like the YouTube videos go from this and like, shut your damn mouth. I'm like, huh? And they're like,
yeah. The YouTube man is the YouTube. Look how fucking old I sound.
Oh, the YouTube,
the YouTube.
For the record, I
was
literally
the old man here.
I stream on YouTube, and like I'm not that old. I'm cool. I'm cool.
I'm hip, guys. I'm hip.
That's all my kids like. We never had cable growing, with the kids.
Sure.
They've never grown up in a house with cable. And it's funny. I remember the first time my oldest, we went and visited grandparents, and when a commercial came on, he didn't know what was happening. He legit looked around.
Why are there 30 minutes of this shit?
He thought somebody turned the channel. He didn't know what it was. Because up until that point, hadn't been watching YouTube. It was all Netflix, right?
Sure,
so it was
sure.
just there's
No
no
commercials.
Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, and then YouTube became more of a longer content form, sort of a media.
I remember when YouTube came around.
Well, exactly, but initially it was more. You wouldn't just sit there and watch. For hours. It was more like, hey, somebody send you a link and here's a funny video.
Mm-hmm.
But now you can watch, great content, for free.
Like real high quality stuff.
Yeah. And but in that same note, it's on autoplay, right? And it just keeps going. So what, like you said, your kid, you hear, swear words, whatever, they start out on one thing. And then you leave the room, and even if they can't control it, it turns into something completely different. And so that's been a weird thing as well, because then they start repeating everything they hear. But YouTube is so, I don't know. It's a weird thing to deal with, is like kids being that connected to everything. And my 7-year-old says, "Here's Johnny," and has no idea what The Shining is. You know what I mean? Because there's
some YouTube clip. Yep.
There's memes and things that make references.
That's funny.
What's even better is when the kids like, hey, check this song out, and it's like a remake.
Right.
That we listen to when we were kids. I'm like, and I like pull up my phone. I'm like, hey, this is the original.
And
they're like, oh, they took that off this one. I'm like, no, you idiot! Look at the date.
The one that gets me is trying to explain to my kids I'm 46. Okay. Explaining to my kids that if you wanted to actually get the music that you wanted to hear, if you didn't have a shitload of money when you were a kid, it was literally hovering over the cassette player, waiting for the song to come on the radio, and pray to God that idiot DJ doesn't decide to talk over the first 30 seconds of the song that you want to record.
Oh my God,
don't want to listen to him talk as you hit the record button. Oh,
terrible.
YouTube, music-wise, YouTube is so much better than that. There's nothing, it's such a night and day comparison. But try to explain to somebody who's under 20 years old the concept of not having instantaneous access to information or music just like that. For God's sake, I went through a large chunk of college still having to do most of my research with an encyclopedia.
Okay, yeah, you're old as shit. Because when I was in college, at very least, it was a time where they were debating whether Wikipedia was an allowed source or not. Because they wanted more, published journals or things like that. But it was still online research. It
was
funny.
It was there at the time.
Sure.
You just had to know how to use it. And the vast majority of people at that point were just getting to the point where that research was really, truly available. One of the things, and this is one of those things for those of your older kids at this point. Do you ever have the conversation of anything you post on the internet is forever yet? That you can't get rid of it?
Yep.
Yep.
Absolutely, we have.
When I decided to do that, my daughter argued with me that that wasn't true. And it took me less than 20 minutes digging through old FTP sites to find some amazingly cringy conversations that I had on Microsoft Internet Relay Chat in the middle 90s while I was in high school. And I said, here, I'm like, here, read through some of this, and I watch her read it. And she's like, oh God, some of this is terrible. I said, which is the worst? And she points it out. I said, yeah, because that's me at 16. And she was just like, wait, you found that? I said, yeah, it took me 10 minutes, 15 minutes to be able to pull all that back up.
I think when my oldest was in about 8th grade, there was an incident with a nude photo of a classmate, of a girl in his school that got circulated. And it it got to the point where the police were involved, right? Like it's a felony, right? It's a child pornography.
Oh yeah, hard felony.
But it started out on I think I don't know if it was like a private message on Instagram or a Snapchat, but regardless, the boy that she sent it to then sent it to 5 other boys, right? And it ended up at some point on my son's phone, and it that was when I had the real conversation of like this girl, regardless of the decision that she made, she's not old enough to make that decision, right? This is like, just because she shared it doesn't mean that it's okay that someone looks at it. Doesn't mean that it's okay that you have it. And like, this is going to follow her for the rest of her life.
Absolutely.
And and just, I made him cry for a good 2 hours. And that was, that was,
hey, sometimes you need to make him cry.
I felt good about that. But then I had to go find the picture and delete it because
it's a felony.
Because it's on the phone.
How
it needs to be
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You as a grown man have to go find this of this girl.
Well, because the police were like, we couldn't, like you couldn't take his phone or whatever. Or no, he was gone before they, got there or something, but he was on the list. So they contacted me and they said, just go through his phone and delete it. And so I had to go through and find, and I'm like, and that's where I really hammered into him. Like, me owning this device could put me in prison.
Absolutely, it could. If you get the wrong detective or something on the wrong day, you're going to jail.
Yeah,
and it was
that's serious shit.
It was, and trying to relay how serious, and I know this is a little further than the what you have in a conversation on Twitter is written in ink, but like.
It's the same concept,
right? There's no thought, and it just, there's no thought to like how big this technology actually is, and I work with it, every day, all day, and so I'm maybe more jaded about it than a lot, and because I haven't had social media, or anything for years and years, but I make him watch documentaries. I make him, like, I show him why some of these things are the way they are, and it doesn't hit for a very long time.
Sure.
But you hope that like all of those things compound into finally them going, oh fuck.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly the reaction that you want. Tavern, you talked about earlier on some bullying situations that were going on with that.
God.
The thing that I hate the most about social media, and I'm right there with you, Cole. I haven't had anything to do with Facebook, Instagram, none of it for many years, because you can't get rid of a Facebook page unless it is something that is like something that they're going to take down because it's terror watch list stuff.
Right.
You can't get rid of it. I'm sure that if I wanted to, which I don't, I could click on my computer right here, right now, and find the Facebook page where my daughter's classmates voted how she should kill herself.
Oh God.
Damn.
At that moment, I decided, I grew up being bullied myself and hated it. And I've gotten through it and past it to the best of my ability as an adult. But I don't tolerate bullying in any way, not from my kids,
absolutely,
not
Same.
to my kids whatsoever.
I was
And-
heavily bullied as a kid. I was 4'3". I was short. I mean, I'm only 5'6" now. I'm not very tall, but
short power.
short man.
I'm
But
maybe
I was
5'8"
picked
with
on a lot.
church shoes.
So
You're tall.
my mom would always say, "Well, walk away, walk away, walk away." I'm like, "Okay, what do you do when you walk away and they hit you in the back of the head?"
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the one time, like I told you guys, I've been training. This is some years later. The same guy I turned around and he just hit me in the back of the head. I turned around, kicked him. It's so hard in his fucking head. He like fell over into the fucking floor, just bow like a brick. And then I got in trouble. I got in trouble. I got. They gave me Saturday school, not suspension, but he got 1 session. I got 3 because they said what I did was excessive. I'm like, did you not see what the fuck he did to me when I turned around? Like he hit me from behind. I reacted, but my dad was like, "You're not just," and like I end up getting suspended. My dad was like, "You're not just gonna have 3 free days off at home." And my mom waited till she goes, "Yeah, I can do shit the whole time you're here."
I got suspended as well. Somebody hit me in the back, and I turned around and swung my backpack, and it hit and broke their nose.
Wham! I love it.
But it was also a girl.
Oof.
So
But
you never win in those situations.
we both got suspended.
Well,
but yeah, I mean, she was smacking me with this backpack because she wanted me to get, because the classroom legit didn't have enough chairs at the time, and
so she beat you out of a chair.
well, she wanted her friend to sit there, right? And she was hitting me with this, and I actually ended up with like cuts from the little, the dangly things on it and stuff. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I turned around and I just kind of swung my back as I put it on my arm. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And all of a sudden she just,
Hey, school books hurt.
and
Oh yeah, they are heavy
took off.
bastards.
And yeah, but luckily we both got suspended. I did have an actual same kind of thing. Kid hitting me in the back, pushing me over, and I turned around once and I punched him right in the face. Blood, broke his glasses, and that was it, right? And that's I kind of pushed that on my kids as well. Is you walk away the first time. I think one of you said that. But otherwise you stand up for yourself. And sorry, I don't mean to keep going on, but my youngest, he had somebody last year that was pushing him down into the dirt. And I told him that same thing. And I, go, find a teacher, walk away, whatever. But if he is putting his hands on you, defend yourself. And I kind of showed him just little things. And the next day he comes back and he says, "I defended myself." And I said, "What happened?" And because I'm thinking I'm going to have to go to school. And he said, "Well, I saw the kid and I ran up and pushed him down and threw dirt on his face." And I said, "No, okay.
Not exactly.
You can't initiate it." He's like, "Well, I didn't want him to push me down first." And so that was an interesting,
strike.
Yeah, he definitely,
he's got a little bit of a point, because like a fight doesn't only start when the first punch is thrown.
No.
You know what I mean? If someone's approaching you and their intention is to harm you, not letting them get to that point, like the fight's already started. You know what I mean? You don't have to necessarily wait for the hit, but like
what's weird
understanding
is
that
it's
concept as a
beyond
kid.
shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
If you know it's coming,
You don't just go sneak attack someone though.
There was one
Right,
time as a kid, I knew that if I didn't hit him, he was gonna hit me. So I just caught that bam, and it was on. But I get the first hit, so it was great.
That's funny that you guys mentioned those two situations, because the first time I got arrested was in 6th grade.
the first
You've been
time.
arrested?
Yeah, in 6th grade, because this kid was bullying me for months, dude, months. And I told the teacher, told the faculty, told my mom, and eventually my stepdad was like, "Oh, well, I guess you're just gonna have to fuck him up."
Beat his
And
ass.
I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I could do that," but I was like hyped up. I'm like, "I know I got this class with this kid,
Uh,
and he's gonna do something." And he done said the stupidest stuff to me. He was like, "Hey, I did your mom," and I kicked the desk out in front of me, took a chair, and cracked him over the head with it.
Yeah, you went to
WWE
jail.
in the classroom. Did you like?
Oh,
Yeah.
he was sitting right behind me, and
don't fuck
everyone.
with Viva. Damn.
But like I got
Yeah,
arrested
yeah.
and stuff, but I didn't really understand. I was like, okay, I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble when I'm at home because like, he like pushed me and he's been bullying me for months and like I just kinda that was it. But yeah, it was
Never
a similar
bothered you, did he?
Did you get in trouble at home?
No, I didn't get in trouble at home. We did have a talk about kind of excessive force.
Excessive. Yeah.
There's stages.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's stages to it. But yeah, I didn't get in trouble at home. I got in trouble at school. They wanted to expel me for it. But I had
You
to
beat this poor kid with a chair.
yeah, well, yeah, it was a mess, but I had to do like community service and
Oh man.
yeah,
I got you.
What
it was
what
nuts.
what happened between the two of you after that?
All of his friends started bullying me.
Oh,
Oh no.
He was like, "Oh, so you
no.
like to throw chairs, huh?" And then they beat my ass.
Oh my
Like,
Should hit
god.
the
them with a
rest of the
fucking
school
chair.
here.
Bam.
See,
So in my head, I was like,
It's
"Well,
my
that didn't
chair
work."
swinging escapade.
and I've always been, since my first incident with dealing with a bully that way, I've been scared of how I react.
Yeah, man.
I don't get angry. I go straight to absolutely rage driven, and that is dangerous beyond compare. I was in second grade. I had this asshole kid deciding he was gonna play dodgeball, something stupid like that. Now they're like, "Oh no, you can't play." So it's like, "Fine, fuck you," and I turn to walk away. And the next thing I get is one of these balls. I mean, and it's not the foam balls; it's them great big, bright red.
Oh, the ones that have the good noise.
dodgeballs.
Yeah.
Bing!
Yeah, the good noise
Off the
balls.
back of my head as hard as he could manage to throw from like 4 foot away from me.
Ooh.
Knocked me down and over. I pop back up, turn around. He's standing there laughing. Well, I turned and I kicked him as hard as I could in the gut. The problem is that I was wearing a pair of early 1970s
No.
rain galoshes. They had to life flight that kid from my school to the
Holy
hospital
shit.
because I kicked him in the fucking gut hard enough that he needed emergency surgery on a stomach that I ruptured.
Wow.
I came this close to ending up in reform school over that. The
Yeah.
only reason I didn't is because the fucking recess monitor saw what the kid did to me and said, I would have kicked him too. It's the
Now,
only
did
reason I
you become
Go
a
ahead.
kicker in
No.
football after that?
No, I should have. I should have. The only problem was that by the time high school rolled around, I was still being mercilessly bullied by some of these same guys.
Oh yeah.
And they're twice the size as me. Do you know what happens to a kicker if he gets hit real fucking hard?
Oh, you go down hard.
They're crippled if things go badly, truly
Yeah.
bad. And I wasn't willing to put myself at a risk that way. Now, looking back on it as an adult, all it would have taken was me winning one football game via kicking something at that point. I would have never had a problem with any of those guys.
Yeah, everyone would have loved you.
Yes. But at that time, you can't see that. Not when
Right.
you're in the
No.
middle of being bullied like that. All you can
Yeah.
see is somebody tormenting you.
Well, it's so weird, boys versus girls.
Mhm.
Like, 'cause you can, I mean,
God.
I'm not saying you necessarily have to raise them a different way, but you do at the same time. Like my boys, like when they get picked on, I say, hey, like walk away. Or after that is beat his ass. But then like my daughter was out with her boyfriend the other I mean they're not together anymore, but some months ago they're just walking around, and she comes in the house and she had a Tide Pod. I was like, what the fuck is that? What are you doing with the laundry pod? She's like, oh, these boys threw it at me and said we stunk and threw it at us as they drove by. I was like, do you know who it was? And she goes, oh yeah, it was the same guys that play basketball I told you guys about earlier.
Mhm.
Same kids. And I was like, where are they at? Because Andrew just turned the older brother just turned 18.
Mhm.
So it's like, where are they at? And she goes, they're at the ballpark, and I'm getting my stuff on. She's like, Dad, no. I'm like, So I mean, I go down there with my vest on, everything. I'm hauling ass. I pull out the Tide Pod, and I just chuck it at him, and bust all over shelves. I was like, hey, you dropped that. He goes, I didn't throw it. I was like, bullshit. You and your bitch ass little brothers with somebody else. And you threw it at my daughter and boyfriend. I was like, you're 18. I was like, I'm pretty sure I can get away with beating your ass once because I got PTSD. I'm gonna get away with one.
I could use
I
that
will
card.
get away.
That-
I might have to go to like a center for 2 weeks,
pass.
but I'm gonna get away with one. Oh, he came at me and my PTSD flipped and I hurt him. And I was like, I can get away with one. I might have to go to a center for 2 weeks to get evaluated, but I can get away with it.
That's honestly, I mean,
And
at
this
least
dude-
me, that's my dream is, and I say dream, it's also a nightmare, right? Like anytime you hear somebody is bullying your kid,
Yeah.
there is something in you
Mhm.
that is, I mean, you can even see it in
Primal,
the
yeah.
the
Say it.
physical reactions. There's something primal that, I mean, I'm feeling flushed right now.
Just thinking about it, right?
Just think, yeah.
I mean, we had some girl that fucking tried to like put something on my kid's face last week, and my wife and I, you know, I was like, I'm gonna beat that fucking bitch's ass, and she's 7 years old, you know, and I'm not, but like, I'm not gonna do it, obviously,
I'm gonna beat that bitch's ass.
but that
That's
is
the way it
what
feels.
goes through you, and you cannot.
Oh man.
You talked about rage.
Oh my god, it's real.
It is.
Uh-huh.
It's the most real
That
thing. It's
dad
the.
rage.
It's a thing that, yeah, dad rage. I don't know what it
Yeah,
is,
dad
and,
rage.
and I don't. Even,
Yeah.
I won't even say just
I
dads
kn-
because I know my wife feels it too, right?
Sure.
It's
It's
like,
parent rage,
Parents.
really.
yeah.
parent rage,
I mean,
yeah.
your kid,
You're young.
and they're in a place where you aren't, and you know you
Mhm.
can't protect them.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
there's, and especially when they're so young, you know. Yeah, sorry, I don't really have an ending point there, but it just, I can't even describe it.
Yeah,
Primal is the
Oh,
word
like,
that really comes to mind.
come out of the hole, Cole. Come out of
With
the
this
hole.
whole-
Okay,
with this
that's
whole
okay.
thing-
We're good.
when this whole thing happened, like you guys said, talked about rage. There's that because when I got in that kid's, I got call him a kid. He's 18, but when I got in his face and I was yelling at him, I could feel myself getting to a point, and I was telling myself, if you don't leave now, you're gonna have to test that theory on one time or not. So I got on my bike,
Yeah.
and I rode around for like 30 minutes to cool off, then I went home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But it's weird. It's even weirder. Like kids fight, but it's even more weird when they're in their teens because it can get. I mean, a fight's a fight, but kids now they don't want to fight. They want to pick up a gun or a knife or a weapon, pepper spray, whatever. They don't want to. They don't want to stand there and box anymore. But so like now, when teenagers get in a fight, somebody can get seriously hurt. It's not gonna be just a bloody nose or a broken nose or a black eye or a busted. You're gonna get fucked up because like now they do not care. You'll be knocked out and they'll still just be drilling you.
Who thought
Oh, yeah,
we
I've
were
seen it.
ever? Who thought we were ever going to get to the point where there is a vastly successful company putting Kevlar inserts into children's backpacks?
Backpacks.
Yeah.
I have
That's-
seen those.
That's fucked. That should never be necessary.
There's a
And
school
I-
in Jonesboro where my sister lives, or I'm sorry, I guess it's a little further than Jonesboro, but their backpacks 100% clear,
Yep. Yep.
100% across the board. You can buy your own, or you can get one from the school. They would just give it to you. You don't have to buy it, but it
You can't
has
hide
to be
anything in there.
100% just like the schools. If you got your own, it had to be just like it because I mean they were clear as hell. I'm like, oh
Yeah.
no, like, holy crap! But
Well, and-
that's sad because when you're in school, that's just that little bit of privacy, a little bit of privacy. Like I was writing, like I've told Nate knows this. I have like a little story that I was writing in high school. It was stupid. I know it was stupid. I'd write an episode. So we were big into manga. I'd write an episode. I give it to Ryan. He'd read it. He'd write his. He'd give it to Zach. He'd read ours. He'd write his, and he'd give it back to me. And we'd just go like that. It was dumb. We never did anything with it. It's still. I found it. Now it's just sitting over in my little corner. But now it's bad because you can't even do that anymore. You can't have that little sense of privacy even in school because like the school doors now, they just changed them out. I don't mean to ramble, but my daughter's like, oh, they're like prison doors. I'm like, most schools doors are, but no. Like you go, you press a button, and
Wow.
like it's
Yeah.
a big
No,
freaking deal.
that is real sad.
Like they didn't have cameras in school when I was in school.
Mhm.
They put them
So-
in a year and a half after I left.
When I went to high school, there was a 6-week period during the year where you brought your shotguns in to shoot
Right.
skeet
Yeah.
for gym.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about that.
There used to be like rifle teams and shit.
That's
Yeah.
nutty.
They have
let's
they
see.
have that here, but you don't meet at the school.
Yeah,
Right.
we were meeting at the
You
school.
meet in a field somewhere where there's like pull. You know what I mean?
Ooh,
Meet at the
somebody's got,
school,
like, a
carry
picture program.
shotguns on the bus to get
Mhm.
transported out
Mhm.
to said field. I mean, we weren't shooting them in the city limits or anything like that, but you showed up with your gun and your ammo, and nobody thought a second thing of it. Nowadays, you do something like that, you're going to prison for the rest of your life.
Yeah. What's it? Tasm Art mentioned a good one. Imagine girls not being able to hide tampons and such. You know, that's a
Yeah.
real sensitive thing, you know, but
That's
because
what I
of
was getting at.
how
Exactly.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, real sad. I think I'm a little younger than all of you. I'm
I'm
20
35.
28, 27, 28. I'm
You're
28.
the baby in the
Yeah.
group.
But I remember when I was in middle school, we had metal detectors to get into school. We had, you know, the resource officers and stuff, but there was a few times where people were like kids in my grade would bring in like a little 22 pistol and stuff like that. And like that really, you know, we think of it like, oh man, it's gotten crazy out of nowhere, but like that stuff was really happening when I was still in school. You know
But
what I
nobody
mean?
had these.
No, I thought it was cool because
Those
it had a razor.
Well,
It had a razor phone.
well,
those
Yeah.
are just as dangerous as the guns.
yeah. So you,
Oh,
you
in
mentioned
some cases worse.
you know, yeah, I was just gonna say, you mentioned, you know, it's scary because obviously the school shootings and things
Yeah.
are terrifying, and it
Mhm.
makes you clench up. I mean, very similar, but maybe more sad feelings as when your kid gets bullied. But like you, I mean, at my oldest high school, he's had 2 people in his grade commit suicide in the last 2 or 3 months.
Gosh, man.
Jeez.
And I mean, people that he you know is at very least, you know, familiar with. And it's the fun. I mean, it's just you can't get away from it sometimes. The bullying, and
Mhm.
that's
I
ahead.
could go home.
Yep.
I
Right.
could go home and I wasn't having to deal with the bullies at home. That was never an issue.
right.
What I said about that Facebook page about my daughter earlier on, if you've got this,
Mm-hmm.
you never have an escape from it. It is always there. It is omnipresent in your entire life. All you got to do is log on, and they're right there bullying. They're in your bedroom with you as far as that goes. At that,
Yeah.
Might
Yeah,
as well
I
be
mean,
right there
Well,
in your face.
and
Yeah.
especially at a young age, like you can't just turn it off. You know what I mean? Like
you don't have the
as an
self-control to do
adult,
that.
exactly. As an adult, you can learn like, hey, this isn't healthy. I'll delete TikTok. I'll delete Facebook. I'm not going to deal with it, or I'll just block people, whatever it is. When you're a kid, you know, it's like there's so much clout and kind of, I guess you can say like a hierarchy within your classmates, you know, as far as like popularity and what groups you kind of hang out with and stuff. That if you're offline, you don't exist to anyone. You know what I
right.
mean? So you really, to a
pretty
certain
much.
extent, you really can't turn it off. And I think that's where a lot of, I mean, let me ask you this: like, what is your way of helping your kids deal with stuff like that? You know, is it like a lot of maybe not necessarily total assurance, but like having them kind of be self confident within their own person to not be able to be affected by that kind of stuff? Like, what's kind of your ideas about that?
A lot of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was that dad that like just, you know, I would say like, but I was the dad that spanked. And I haven't had to spank in years. I can't even tell you the last time, but anyway. But like the kids now are different from when we were so you have to treat them a little bit different. Like I'm not saying you know completely coddle them, but like Gabriel and Gabbard just by game, and I was sitting there, I was like, okay, what's the problem? You first. And they're like, you be quiet. And I got their sides. I'm like, okay, so what can we do to resolve? So you're it's conversations, really. In my opinion, you can. I mean, they can look it up, I guess, if they want to, but a lot of it's conversations on how to deal with bullying, especially online. Because I tell them, I'm like, it doesn't matter how good you are. Somebody's going to complain because you're better than they are. You're doing better than they are. You got more views than them. So they're going to bully you. I was like, you just have to look past that because that's just their own insecurities. And you don't need to let that rub off on you. Because then they're living rent free in your head.
I've always loved that phrase, living rent free in your head, because it's so real.
Yeah, we always, I mean, there's a couple things, but what I always say is you can't control what other people say and do. The only thing you have control over is how you react. And if you allow someone to take control of that, then you give them power over you.
Yep.
And so, there's that, but specifically to your question, I mean, with social media, again, maybe I'm a little lucky here because I've only had one it's at age of social media, and two, he's a boy, and social media, at least with him, is not even as much about the popularity thing. It's
it's more about seeing stuff blow up and
and sports and
car
and
videos and
stuff. So he hasn't had to deal with that, and I mean he's a good looking athletic kid. He doesn't get bullied, so like we're very lucky with that. But when he was younger, it was not letting him have those things, not letting him have a phone until he was I don't even know what age, but as long as we could hold out.
That's key.
Right. Hold out as reasonably as you can.
And then even when he got a phone, not allowing him to even have social. I mean, kids are on social media at like 10 years old, or even, I mean, probably younger, but
probably some days. Yeah.
That's in my opinion, the 10-year-old that's on Instagram isn't totally absentee parenting. They're not choosing to monitor, and they're allowing this phone to be what the television was for my generation, the secondary babysitter. I just keep yourself busy and I don't have to handle that. If you're that kind of parent, you probably shouldn't have made the choice to have children in the first place. You really shouldn't.
And
I don't want to be judgmental, but that's the way I feel about that.
Sure.
I will,
no, I can know.
and I won't I won't necessarily go that far, but I would say I think a lot of parents don't even understand either, because just like, we didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
That wasn't a thing. And if it was, it was at either an older age or to just a bunch of nerds that knew how to actually get on the internet. Right. Which I was definitely one of, but I mean, my kid, even after he got a phone, I wouldn't let him have social media accounts. I would prevent those apps. I had blockers on his phone. I literally tracked his phone and
family link.
Everything on. Yeah, family link. Yeah. I actually had something that was even a little more extreme, to where it would send me like his search results. Right, or his search queries.
Dude, I wish I'd have had that.
Oh, wow.
Family Link was great, but my daughter found out that if you go to emergency call, it brings up the keypad. You can call anybody you want, not just emergency.
Which makes you learn the skill of memorizing a phone number, which most teenagers have no idea.
That's
how to
true.
do.
Like that might work on a teen that's coming in already knowing how to use all this. They don't really know the phone numbers. I still remember my parents' numbers from
same. I remember the number to the bar.
Number. Yeah.
I remember the number to the bar because I always had to call my parents at the bar. While my brother and I were at home. And I could still tell you that number. But someone, the Tasemart again in chat said, we have the mindset, if you have a phone when you can have a job and can pay for one yourself. I might actually go that route with my youngest. I didn't with my oldest. But he also, his biological dad, we had to compete with like him getting him a phone.
Right.
Because at one point
that's an interesting one.
we gave him a hand me down, older phone, when he, I don't know, in junior high at some point, and he broke it. I said, well, tough shit. Like,
It's broke.
like it's broke. You don't get a new one. You broke it. Now you can wait till Christmas. You can wait, whatever.
Damn it.
And
That's a long time for a kid.
And
yeah, I mean,
but-
you're completely cut off.
Yeah,
But,
longest 2 weeks.
bio dad, right? Gives him another one.
Ah.
So that was a little different.
Yeah.
I
but-
completely get that one as well, Cole.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about there. That's a hard one to compete with no matter what.
And it wasn't even him being, doing anything wrong either. He's not a terrible person. He's not a great one, but he's not, terrible.
You're
So that's
lucky
where
there then too.
It gets hard. Yeah. I think we are pretty lucky there. But the keeping them off social media, I mean, even just keeping them off of it until the social media's terms and conditions. So
Yeah.
that was the line that we ended up drawing, was saying you can't get on Instagram until you're 14. I think that
Right.
was the age, maybe 13 or 14. But we had to have that conversation for 2 or 3 years before that,
Mhm.
because everyone else was on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I said, even Instagram says you
You're
have
not
to be
supposed
this.
to be here.
You're not
Right,
allowed
yeah.
to be on here. I get that all of your friends
so and
are.
so is on it. Well, they shouldn't be.
Right.
Yeah.
And so similar though, I found out that he had made an account, and even though he couldn't download the app because I had blockers and everything,
You go
if
to
he
the
went through a
website.
news feed, and on the news feed it had a link to their
Uh-huh.
Instagram, he could click on the Instagram and log in on the web app, which means he didn't have any search results
Right.
showing that he went to that page.
I mean,
Right?
That's actually brilliant.
Sneaky kid.
Yeah,
Well, and,
I told him I was impressed. I told him I was actually impressed.
He found his way around that.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like kids are, they're
They're like inmates. They're gonna find new ways.
They're gonna-
Yeah,
Get
they
past the
are.
rules.
How to make
gonna find a way.
bathtub gin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah.
Next thing you know, they're downloading the Anarchist Cookbook, and you're like, where the hell did this thing come from?
I mean,
I still got a hard copy of that from when I was a teenager. It's
Oh, man.
in
Offline,
a folder somewhere.
offline,
I mean-
can you send that to me?
kids can impress you, right? They can impress you with their ingenuity when they actually
Yeah.
want something. But if
Oh,
they
yeah.
Right.
don't, and you're trying to make them do something, it's like a brick wall. They are.
Yeah.
I mean, you would swear they're dense as fuck.
That's an act.
I know. I know.
totally
It's
an
complete
act.
bullshit. bro.
it's a battle of attrition.
My daughter is goddamn this. She's smart. She's really, really smart, but she acts dumb.
Yep.
Like
Mm-hmm.
I've been bitching at her to clean her room forever, and then I was like, okay, fine. You want to go to homecoming? You have to keep your room every clean from today to homecoming. Bitch was clean every day.
Oh, I'm
like-
sure it is. Yeah.
Proper motivation.
And she was her biggest thing was, well, I don't know where to put half of this. I'm just like, oh, there's plenty of places if you just have to look around.
I'm like,
You
throw it
put
out.
under things. You can figure it out. And sure enough, she did. I'm like, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said
Fuck, told you.
motivation, that the phone thing actually becomes an incredible tool for motivation. That is the one thing it's good for, is they will do anything to keep it.
Yeah.
Well, and I look at that from that is both a motivating factor. It also is a sticking point that I have. This how addictive is that device and
Mm.
these things the way they've been designed to function
Oh,
that they are willing to go to those levels of extreme to not lose it.
Yeah.
Me and you have both discussed our own sobriety. We know what addiction actually
Yeah.
is. You can look at technology. It's just as much of a drug as anything else if it's being
Absolutely.
abused.
I mean,
it
that's
is.
a lot of my background comes from developing apps and e-commerce, and all of it is psychologically driven to continue interaction, right?
Yep.
To
Oh, yeah,
keep
'cause it has to
someone
be. It has
there.
to be made that way. Yeah.
And trigger a dopamine response so that they
Yeah.
are pleased to be there, not just pissed.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, and then it gets to where, I mean, people have withdrawals without it.
Yeah.
That's something that I've noticed recently, actually. And anybody, I mean, there's a few people in chat that I'm friends with, and they know this too. That my youngest, I mean, because I work all day on a computer, we game. Like he ends up on a screen a lot, right? And right here behind me at this computer too, and he'll play games with us. And I've noticed it myself, and I've started instituting like, okay, we need to go outside. We're not we don't need screens for however long, and just making him be outside, play outside, and these are things that maybe up until like this year he would do on his own. But
Mhm.
you get to a certain age, and all of this becomes so you can use it. It's not
It's more of a tool as well.
yeah, you can navigate
Mhm.
it. It's fun, and now he's like all about it, and it just became a little concerning. And I wanted to, I realized it, that I need to push on him back, like go fucking outside.
I spent such a tremendous amount of time as a kid on a screen as well.
Man.
Even at 46, I mean, all the way back to a Commodore 64, spending a tremendous amount of time playing goofy ass little video games on that. I threw away the Commodore 64 discs that I had when I realized they got water damaged less than 5 years ago. I
Yeah.
still had it, still functioned, still loved it. But
Man said the Commodore.
my parents were adamant for me that if you're going to spend amount of time on screen, you're going to spend just as much time outside.
I have a
God,
friend.
dude,
I have a
outside
friend
all
that
the
actually he requires his kids to bank time, so banking screen time
Uh-huh.
with outdoor time. So if you want an hour on the screen, you need an hour outside. And I haven't gone to that length yet, but I love the thought of it. I love that he's
Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that.
I'd probably for like every 30 minutes you're outside, you get some screen time or something. Because
Yeah, I mean,
we have the state park. Gosh, it's right over there. Like you can
Oh,
hear
that's
it.
handy.
that's awesome.
So,
man.
I mean,
Yeah,
like,
that's really nice.
and being homeschooled, like after you're homeschooled, like, all right, I need you to go get dressed, spend 10 minutes cleaning your room, and then we're going to go to the park.
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Now, we haven't done that the past 7 days because it's been stupid cold. We're trying to get used to the
Fair
the
enough.
cold, but I mean, we'll be all right. But I mean, we'll be back to it. But
Yeah.
at
Well,
least we can
soon
do
you'll be able
that.
to do like snowball fights and snow angels.
Oh
And
yeah, we do all that. They're
stuff.
all about a snowball fight.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to touch upon are kind of like what are some basic rules that you think are useful when raising your kids at different age kind of brackets, and also how do you enforce those rules? Because that's always a big question, and everyone's got a little bit of a different idea on how much enforcement um, is needed to keep your kids within the structure of a rule set. What are you guys thoughts on that whole idea?
Ooh. I have
Good
always
question.
thought that rules are necessary, but I personally have never liked them. Not for myself,
Mhm.
And because of that, that made that difficult for me a lot of times with my kids. The biggest thing within my household was be respectful of each other.
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
can be
Yep. Number
angry,
one,
you
for
can
sure.
be sad, you can be upset, and still be respectful of the
Mhm.
person that you're angry with, that you're upset at. It doesn't require you to be vicious. The moment you've gone to vicious, you've lost
Yeah.
because no one's going to listen to you once you're vicious, and all you're going to do is get sent to your room for being mean.
Yeah.
My daughter
You know,
has figured that out the hard way. Like, we get a lot of that. Oh well, they're your biological kids, and I'm not. They get special treatment, and I'm like, no, dude, it's not about special treatment. It's about the fact that they don't get. They're younger than you by a lot. By in Gabriel's case, 5 years, and he gives us less problems than you do.
Also, why is that crazy for older kids to comprehend that like a 7-year-old is different than a 16-year-old?
because
well,
they
why,
want.
why aren't you yelling at him about this?
Yeah.
It's like, you should
Because-
fucking know better.
You've had 10
Thank
years more
you.
experience at this point.
Like,
sorry,
what are you
sorry to
talking
interrupt.
about?
I just
No, you're absolutely right there.
it boggles my mind when a 10-year gap and they're bickering at each other. And I'm like, can you just fucking stop? You're 10 years his
Yeah.
senior.
You're supposed to be the adult here.
Yeah.
I told my daughter, I'm like, you're supposed to be somebody to look up to. She goes, well, obviously I'm not. I was like, you're not being one lately.
right.
And
And
she's
it's
like, well, that's not my job. That's your job. I was like, Star, it doesn't matter if it's my job or not. Gabriel, the young one, he looks up to you. He watches everything you do because he has a soft spot for you because you're his sister. You're his only sister. So even though you're older, he's got a soft spot for you. He's watching what the hell you do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, he hit me first. He's 7.
He's freaking little.
Like you don't hit, and he doesn't,
It's a
sock
teaching
him.
opportunity.
But right, it's like
Yeah.
you can be a bigger person.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to say one thing very simply, and it's something that I know that I think that Taze and Mark put into the comments earlier on. There is a gender stereotype with that. I have been punched in the mouth by women that turned around and they hit me just like a man. Okay. This whole you don't hit girls. Well, if you're getting the living snot kicked out of you by that girl, you damn well better be defending yourself just as much otherwise. And I say that because otherwise what you're doing is creating the girl who thinks it's totally acceptable to beat the living crap out of her boyfriend when she turns 17.
And then
That's what
nothing's
you're
going to
creating.
happen to her.
And then nothing will
happens,
happen.
too. Yeah, it happens.
And then bam.
Well, and
Well-
I mentioned that when I think it was I think it was Chuck talking about this where the idea that I'm sorry, I got distracted with something. Yeah, like you don't as a boy growing up in middle school, elementary school, if you get into a fight with a girl, it's a lose-lose. If you win, you're just an asshole that beats up the girl. But if you win, or sorry, yeah, if you lose, you got beat up by a girl. But if you win, then you're the asshole that beat up a girl. So as a young boy, your hands are kind of tied in that situation. So that's a difficult spot to be in.
Yeah, I mean,
It's funny sometimes though, because there's this chick that liked me and we met at church camp. Figured that one out. But we met at church camp and she ended up going to my school the next year. And I'm like, oh, goddamn. Like, oh, fuck. All right, whatever. Let's see what happens here. Because she already hated two of my friends. But her and I, we broke up. And she wanted me to talk to her. I'm like, I really don't want to talk to you. So like I was walking away and she jumped on my back and she hit like 4 times in the face. And I pushed her off. I was like, you serious? You happy? And bam, she hit me again. I'm like, and then I was like, bitch. And like she caught back and I moved and the pole behind me, she broke all 4 of her fingers.
Wow.
Because I did this.
Mm-hmm.
So that one.
Yeah, that's throwing a haymaker.
That's the caveat to your lose-lose situation because I didn't hit her. I never hit her, but she ended up way more fucked up than my face was. Like I had like a tiny little mouse for a day and it was gone by the time I woke up.
So as a young young boy, if you're getting bullied by a girl, just hope there's a pole behind you when she goes and tries laying in that straight right to your face.
Well, and I knew there was a pole behind him. I wasn't sure how close it was because it was at school. I knew that, but I didn't know I was like almost right up against it. So when I moved, it's her hand. I was like, ooh.
So I wanted to jump back to the rules.
Yes.
Thing.
Yeah, we got distracted.
Yeah, sorry.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
Similarly, I don't necessarily like rules. They're meant to be bent or broken depending on the rule, and I've made my living doing that, right? Like I said, I have been running cannabis companies since before they were legal.
That's bending a lot of rules.
And so respect is 100% what I have pushed. And again, only boys, so I don't have both sides of the coin, but my whole thing has always been respect for your mother, And I don't know I think it just comes more naturally because I become that like strong voice that I don't have to ask for it necessarily for me.
Yeah.
But they end up talking back to their mom or whatever, and
What's
just
that?
yeah, exactly. Me stepping in. But that also makes it so that it looks like my wife can't, sort of stand up
Sure. Yeah.
and do that
You
for
don't want
herself
to
too.
undermine that authority in
Right.
any way.
So that's,
Dude,
a
yeah.
little thing, but more so just always hammering in respect. And obviously, peppering in where deserved. Once they start getting older, like it's not blind, right?
Oh, they're gonna push you.
But but
Woo.
but yeah, respect at very least for your mom, and then that sort of I think translates across to others
Sure.
in senior teacher roles and things like that. Even if you don't like
Right.
the teacher, you respect, you follow it.
Mhm.
You don't have to like it. Yeah, if you can get around it, go for it. But if you're gonna get in trouble, you got to
Suffer
know the
the yeah,
consequences.
exactly.
Yeah,
Like,
you pay the
like,
piper if you're going to do it.
Right.
and like my daughter knows me. Like I'm like I don't have a lot of rules. I really don't. I mean, we used to be so stickler, but stuff in the dishwasher. We used to be on it, but like now, I'm a stay-at-home dad. My wife works from home. I do a lot of shit in the morning. So I mean, whatever. It's now it's routine, but she knows that I don't steal, don't lie.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basic stuff. Yeah.
Well, she had told us the day on her birthday that just about every time she gone to a certain theme park with the school, she has come home with some stuff that she didn't pay for. So we kind of lit into her a little bit, went on about it. The very next day, my wife starts getting a call from my daughter, text message saying, I'm sorry. Da, 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 da. I'm just like, and that was the day my wife's dog died. So when a number showed up that she didn't know, she's like, I don't want to deal with this. You do it. It was another theme park. I'm not going to say which one, but it was a different theme park that caught her shoplifting. So that came with a $250 fine and criminal trespass for that park for a year.
Mhm.
In the moment, because she was still coming home on the bus, like she hadn't even left the park yet, hours away. And in the moment, I was so fucking mad. But I'm like, if I fly off the handle, especially today, because my wife's dog that we had before kids has just died. We just buried it today, like that day. I was like, it's gonna be so much. Yeah, and we didn't even tell her. We're like, we'll tell her when she gets home. We don't want to ruin her trip, whatever. So in that moment, if I'd have let my anger over, it would have been so much more worse. So we wait till the next day. So she has to do things around the house that we $5 here, $6 there, whatever. She's on every shit detail that the school has. Because she didn't get suspended.
How that happened, I don't understand.
The principal and I have an understanding because he yelled at me last year and I stood up and I yelled back. He stood up, he yelled, and I stood up and I got in his face. I yelled back, and things were said.
So it's like a mobster level understanding.
Yeah. So no, we got this. So we had this mutual respect, and he was like, "Look, I don't think that she should be kicked off of every school trip. Obviously, she can't go back there till next year, but I don't think that she should be kicked off every school trip." I was like, if it has to do with school, fine. If it's a theme park for good behavior for a club, no, she can't go.
Mm-hmm.
So not only that, I got a hold of the chief of police who I know. And I was like, you got any community service work? And he goes, oh, yeah, man. He goes, you just tell me when. He's like, you just tell me when. I'm like, I'll be talking to you. So she has all that to do. And that's before we even discuss ungrounding her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she doesn't understand. She is 17. Her birthday was the day before this. She just turned 17. She doesn't understand. If they really wanted to, like, for example, had she not been with the school, they would have called the PD and took her to jail. You're 17. You're going to big girl jail. And I was like, you understand that this particular, whatever. I was like, you understand that St. Louis was like the worst city in America for like 3 years in a row. Do you really want to go to lockup there? I was like, Star, anything can happen in the 4.5 hours, 5 hours. It's going to take me to get there to get you. I was like, and that's assuming
that I start driving right away.
You even get processed quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, you're going to sit there all night, probably overnight, because I'm telling you right now, if you get arrested, you're sitting there at least one night. And if it's Friday, you're sitting there until I decide to come get you Monday.
I mean, sometimes a night or two in jail might teach you a lot.
And it's like she still does not understand. She could have gotten arrested. She could have been suspended. She could have been expelled. She could have gotten a 0 for every class for the year and have to repeat that. They could have done anything they wanted. And I think because he knows my attitude, when he has an attitude, it was kind of, we'll do this, but not that. No, we don't do all that. We don't want to mess up her junior year.
Yeah.
Well, the whole concept of kids stealing, the first thing that I'm going to say is, regardless of whether you've caught them doing it yet, every single child that you have had has stolen something. We all have done it. Yeah. We did it as children ourselves. It all depends on whether or not they get away with it, and they think that's a thrill then.
Because and see, here's the thing, and I'm glad you said that. Oh, we did it as kids, and that was my wife's biggest thing. Oh, well, we did it as kids. You did it as a kid. That doesn't make what she did okay.
No, it doesn't.
Just because we stole as kids, we were stupid. They're supposed to not do the dumb shit that we did.
Yeah, but they will.
No.
I love this because there's so many different.
Because
I love this.
I agree. They're going to. You can't expect them to not do the dumb things that you've done. My same thing yesterday. My wife. Well, you never, did anything like with your car, right? And never did anything where you didn't take care of it or did something stupid. And I said, no, I did. And that's the problem. Is then I got my shit taken away, right? Like I got my ass busted for it. And that I think it you can't expect them or even hope for them to not do the things that you've done. Well, I mean, hopefully they don't do some of the things I've done. Okay. But like
we all feel that way.
But what you have to do is be able to have a conversation, to beat their ass, to have some kind of punishment similar to what happened to you that hopefully, I mean, I don't know any of you. I don't know if you still steal or whatever, but
I don't even have a criminal record at this point.
Whatever curbed that.
How that happened.
Right? Whatever curbed that in your life, you've got to do the same for them. Mm-hmm. And that's where you find yourself saying or doing things that your parents said or did.
Oh God.
And I called my parents one day, I don't know, years ago, and I just said, I am sorry. Because I had a teenager, and I said, I must have been terrible because these teenagers are so fucking stupid. And you had two of them at the same time, and they just laughed and they said, what did he do now? But yeah, they're gonna do the same shit. It's just you've got to curb them, hopefully like your parents or whoever did for you.
I am so thankful my niece, or I'm sorry, my nephew is just like my sister.
Yep.
I'm so thankful for that.
That's the parents' curse.
Smart mouth.
Yeah.
And now he's got it. And I remember he was a kid, and we're sitting in the her kitchen because me and my dad, we don't really talk, and he liked to divide and conquer. So I didn't talk to my brother, my older brother and sister for years, but we finally got to the point where reconnecting. We're sitting in my sister's dining room, and you hear Race go, if mom finds out, she's gonna flip her shit. And I forgot what he's doing. He was doing something he wasn't supposed to. He had something he was doing he wasn't supposed to. I think it was like some candy in a bowl and some chips and like whatever. He knew he wasn't supposed to. But we fucking heard it. We're sitting in the goddamn. And she goes in there. She goes, "What are you doing?" And I swear, this kid goes, and there he goes. Oh man, the ass whooping that came from because this was years ago. The ass whooping that ensued was I'm laughing. She comes back in, she's laughing while she's spanking his ass. And at this point, he's laughing now. So it ended up getting kind of let go, but like, oh my, he is just like her. He gives her so much shit. I'm like, thank you, Race, thank you.
The parents curse, very simply. May you have one just like yourself
Right.
to
Right.
have
Oh,
to
God,
deal with.
Gabriel.
That's what my mom's dealing with right now with my little brother. He's we're 14 years apart. He was not planned. Neither was I, but like
Mom and dad still be fucking though.
Yeah. But we tell them that when they're fucking, when they're in their 20s. Oh, I still bang your mom. Like,
well, but that's the thing. So I don't remember this as a kid, but like it makes sense for just kind of how I am now, temperament wise. My mom would tell me, she could place me on the floor, draw a circle around me, and leave me with a toy, and go do absolutely anything, and I'd still just be right there. I was always pretty. I mean, I think my mom spanked me twice, and that's just because I was
You're
like,
pretty boring.
yeah, I was a boring kid. My little brother, on the other hand, he can't go to school without having an issue. He can't.
If you've never had to run from your parents to stop them from giving you an ass whooping,
no, never.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
I got on the trampoline. I'm like,
that's
they
what
always
I have now
catch
with my little brother.
There are things that I did when I was a kid that they would call Homeland Security over now.
My little brother, he took a 2-liter of Coke. They drank the Coke. They took some tin foil and some gasoline, put lit up.
Yep.
Good.
Boom! It's just a noisemaker. It does nothing. I mean, if you're next to it, it's probably gonna burn the fuck out of you. But I mean, really, it's just a noisemaker. My dad, being who he was, he put him in like an institution for like 3 days to teach him a lesson. And I'm like, dude, you did not do him any favors by doing that.
Yeah, you just gave more ammunition.
I was like,
so
if
much
you'd have known the shit I did when I was his, because there's like a 6-7 year difference between me and him as well. I was like, if you'd have known the shit I did when I was his age, I was like, you fucking, sir, I'd probably still be in jail. I was like, what he did something stupid safely.
That I like that. I heard someone say once that that you should let kids.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah,
you should let kids explore, or like do dangerous things. Just like do dangerous things in a safe manner, because kids are going to explore. They're going to play in the monkey bars. They're going to stand on top of the monkey bars and run across like a bunch of idiots. But but
there goes a broke leg.
It's just dangerous enough that they can explore and adventure and learn kind of their limits, but it's still safe enough and in a kind of a contained space where they won't get detrimentally hurt mostly. You know what I mean?
Oh, we would do ladder matches, but it was on a trampoline. Yeah. So if you fall on the ladder, shit's gonna hurt.
Yeah.
I mean, if you fall onto the ring, you just go boing.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay.
But you learned a lot of valuable skills there.
We used cookie sheets, anything that like pie pans, anything that would bend like really easy when you hit somebody, and like we do the whole pan like hit your hands and hit your head, but it's
anyway, it looked really cool. When I was a kid, we would just throw rocks at each other.
Oh my god!
we had this conversation yesterday. Yeah, it wasn't rocks.
Bottle rocket fights are great.
They were dirt clods.
Dirt
clods.
Acorns too.
Yeah, I mean
rocks in the dirt clods and the
sorry, I kind of taken over your job. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but what Mux just said, I think, is actually a good point on what we were talking about. It's interesting that punishing kids instead of just trying to understand what your kid did probably makes your kid do worse things. So many parents treat their kids as dumb and don't even look at what happened. It's just going to immediate consequences.
Yep.
And that's something that
I feel attacked a little bit. No.
Yeah, he said one of the dads. No, it is different though, right? Because I don't remember having conversations with my parents about anything. I got the wooden spoon. I got
straight to an ass whipping.
Yeah, wait till your dad comes home.
Oh,
I always
Oh,
felt
Stand in
terrible.
the
I
corner.
actually,
isn't that a
I always,
scary line?
I always felt terrible for my dad too, because he'd come home from, however long at
Hard
work,
days work.
and it'd be like,
yeah.
you need to whip his ass. And
It just got here.
yeah,
Beat
but
his
I,
ass
u- I usually had the
over
choice:
there.
wooden spoon now or dad later.
Wooden spoon now, God.
And
no.
now, yeah, always
Yeah,
the
do it.
spoon.
Now,
Yeah, yeah.
the answer is always now. Keep in mind, my dad was the one who was home with me,
Oh yeah,
and my mom's a nurse.
Booze.
So
Oh,
what
she's
you-
mad all the time.
she was working 14-hour days and had an
Mhm.
hour drive one way back to our house. So she's doing
Mhm.
16-hour days every day of the week. You do not want an ass whooping from mom at the end of
Right.
a 14-hour shift as a
Yeah.
psych.
She's gonna kill you.
She's
You
gonna take out all the
absolutely
day on
do
you.
not want that.
Right. When what I was getting to is we have had to spank our kids a minimal amount of times in comparison. I mean, I can count on one hand for each of them, right? Like, and honestly, the conversations you Mux had mentioned, treating them as dumb. I don't know if we were just dumber or they're not, or maybe it would have been more helpful for us. I don't know, but the conversations,
Oh,
I mean,
we
for
were
the
definitely
longest
dumber.
time, my oldest, he would have rathered if we spanked him, because if mom was disappointed in him, that would
Ooh.
just destroy him.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
And-
psychological warfare, man. That is
yeah,
far more dangerous.
I know.
Ass
And
whooping.
yeah, exactly. But the conversations and figuring out what's going on has, and I credit my wife for this, because I'm much more of like, just shut the fuck up. Like, what do at least that's what again, that's what inside I'm saying,
yeah.
or to my wife, like that's what I want to say to them, but I
Oh,
won't.
God. The inner
But like,
monologue of a dad.
yeah, but the conversations actually have made it to where our oldest is super open about things that are happening that
That's
I
so
never
good.
would have talked to my parents
That's
about.
so good.
And that's key. You're
Mhm.
absolutely right about that. One of the things that I told my kids, because my biggest thing is, I can't help you if you're not honest with me.
That's
Mhm.
you
what
are
I've always
And
said.
they
Yes,
don't
I
understand
remember
that.
If
If
you
you are
lie, it's
lying
10
to
times
me-
worse.
Well,
Yep.
if you're lying to me, I'm acting on bad information and you're going to get punished for something that you shouldn't be. I'm going to be overreacting for situations. My oldest boy, Craig, wonderful young man. When he first came to live with us, lied all the fucking time.
Yeah.
All about dumb shit.
Oh, and it was
Yeah,
never
just
about
stupid shit.
anything that was critical. We broke him of that very simply because I just looked at him and said, look, you can tell me the truth. Yes, you're probably still going to be in trouble, but if you lie to me and I catch you in that lie,
Mhm.
I'm going to make you write sentences. And then he
I've
was
had
just like,
that same conversation.
he's just
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not such a big deal. I said, wait, because the first time you lie to me, I'm going to give you a simple sentence. You're going to write it, 100 times. And I'm going to up that by a factor of 10 every time I catch you in another lie.
Hopefully
so
he's
it
good
went
at
from
math.
100 to 1,000
Oh my God.
to 10,000. And when he spent 3 months writing 100,000 times, I will not lie to my mother or my stepdad. And his hand was gimped up like this, could barely, could not do it because he did. He spent an entire summer basically sitting there writing this sentence.
Wow.
Oh, that is
Now,
beautiful.
I never had him. He doesn't lie to me. From that point on, it clicked
My dog's
that if I do this again, I'm at 1,000,000
Yeah.
sentences.
I mean,
He hit critical mass. It's like, all right, that's
point
that's
of
it.
no return. Fuck
Yeah.
that.
I'm gonna be here for
100,000
years.
The 100,000 sentences took 3 months.
What's
This
one
is going to take 30 the next time I do this.
one thing
You
I
gotta
really
go
like
something
about that
different, bro.
is
Come on. You can't do that.
one thing I really
love
like
it,
about
though.
that is that you set a clear
Clear line.
a clear line, like, hey, if this
Definitely.
happens, this will happen, and importantly, you stuck to that. That's one of those things where I look at how love my mother. I would go to war for the woman any day of the week at the drop of a hat. I love her to death. She did a fantastic job with me. But with my little brother, she's just kind of she's old, not old, but like she's
She doesn't want
older
to go
and
through all the bullshit.
she's over it, and the kids is an absolute handful. He's better now that he's getting older, but but it was that thing where she'd try to, okay, here's the line, and then she would never follow through with the actual implementation of the punishment. And as a kid, I remember, no, if mom said this and I went past that line, then that's where my punishment always exactly. I had an
Consistency.
Xbox. I got an Xbox for Christmas one year, and I did something stupid. I got like terrible grades, and I just had an Xbox with no cords sitting on my desk for like a year and a half.
Fuck yeah.
And it was just like sitting
Like
there,
that.
like looking at the damn thing.
My
Had, like,
daughter looked
2
at
months
me
of playing it.
That's
when
my
I told
daughter's
her I
phone
was
charger.
gonna take her TV away. I told her, I said, look, you can't. You're grounded from your TV. She's like, how are you going to stop me from watching? I'm like, well, out comes a pocket knife and off comes the cord.
Woo!
I was an electronics technician in the Navy. This is not hard to splice a
I
cord back on
I
at
could
all.
put a cord back on.
But she don't know how. And
Right.
she, as far as she's just concerned, I just destroyed the Christmas gift that she just gotten a month or
Yeah,
two
yeah.
before. I said, here's how, and just draped it over my neck and walked out of the room.
Well, and that's
If you can-
the beauty and the curse of technology too, is because
Yeah.
I can literally just turn off the phone, or
Mhm.
turn off like their ability to watch the TV. No Wi-Fi in your room.
Oh
you
yeah,
know?
the Wi-Fi.
Um,
A month or two later made the comment of, after she'd gotten that privilege back, she made some comment of, well, you wouldn't do that to this because you couldn't fix that. I said, no, you're right, but I've already taken that away from you now. She's like, well, how are you going to enforce that? I went downstairs and I flipped the breaker to her room. Now you have no electricity.
Ta-da.
I
mean, this is not hard.
my daughter would stay up, especially when she first moved in.
That's what it was. That was
That's
up
what they
until
do.
3 a.m. Yep.
Yeah, she'd be up till 3 in the morning watch TV. So I actually found in our junk drawer tiny lock, and it fit perfect between those prongs, and it clicked. Your TV, you can't watch it. And your phone, you can have your phone. Charger's mine. And I'd put them in like a lockbox or something.
Yeah,
She can't get to, so she,
go
I take my
ration
charger
your
with me
phone
when I
time.
go somewhere, so she can't just grab my charger or whatever, and just watching the phone die. Like I think that's great, because like they still have that device or that game or that whatever they really really enjoy. They still have it,
Gives them
but
a reminder.
it's for no damn reason. It's a paperweight.
Dude, my stepdad, he would so like on the older Xbox, it had like an attachment dongle
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
plug in, and then you
Yep.
plug in your controller to the dongle. He would take the dongle. Everything else was there.
Oh no! I remember as a kid, we were on the computer like all the time. My mom took the keyboard. My brother goes, he goes to start. He goes hit electronic keyboard.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to like drag it and click each letter when you were
Yeah,
sending.
yeah.
You can still send messages. I was like,
I mean,
that's cool.
that's still just such a hassle.
Yeah, we quickly figured out this works in theory, but we're not going to sit here all day and type
Right.
10 minutes to type a message or whatever.
But yeah, I think definitely like making rules and having those. I guess the general consensus is like having as few rules as necessary to keep them as a civilized human.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm still, because I was disciplined a certain way, so I'm trying to break that so it doesn't
Yeah.
rub off on her or them, or all three of them, whatever.
for sure.
So I'm
Yeah.
trying to. It's
what else you got, Viva?
One thing I was thinking about is your thoughts on swearing, right? I know some people who it's just like, listen, like if I know some people who go about it as, I don't really give a shit if my kid swears as long as they aren't, being like malicious with it. It's like, oh, if they hurt their hand, they go, ah, shit. It's like, I just don't really care about that. It's not a huge deal to me. But some people are like, any, damn, bad word. up until they're like 18. It's like, what are those?
I'm sorry, I just read what Mux wrote.
We live in Australia. It's possible to stop your kids from. Fair enough. Fair enough.
That's great.
I'm gonna pick up the swearing one for that.
Sure.
Very simply, I'll start.
Oh,
with
well,
that.
yeah, you're a sailor, so
I'm a sailor, so I mean, I swear all the time. I have to very specifically try to tone that back, especially around some of my friends and some of my friends' kids. They have totally different rules.
Right.
It goes back to that simple respect thing. My parents didn't care in the slightest if we swore, as long as we weren't swearing at someone. So stub your toe, you do the shit. But if you turn and look at him and go, you shithead, you're in it.
Yeah,
you are
because
suddenly
that
in
crosses that
huge ass
disrespectful
trouble.
line.
You've crossed that disrespectful line.
Yeah.
And you can be respectful and still swear. Now, the story with this that goes on for me as a child that I think fits the best. Now, keep in mind, my dad looks very similar to me, had a beard more like what Tavern's got right there, all the way down to here, and is the Picard horseshoe ball. He's a burnout hippie. He always has been. He's absolutely that guy. He always has been. So I'm in kindergarten, preschool, I can't remember which. And I get sent home with a note. I give it to my dad. My dad looks at me and goes, "What the fuck is this?" And I'm like, I don't know. So he reads it, looks at me, says, "I got to go meet your teacher tomorrow at the end of the school day. I'm supposed to come pick you up and she needs to have a meeting." And he gets there, and this teacher, this is her first teaching job. She's 25 tops. And she's like, Matthew does all his work and he tries to do everything, fairly well. He doesn't really all that disruptive, not big. And my dad's looking at her and he's like, but he swears an awful lot. And my dad turns and he looks at me and I watch this sparkle appear in his eyes. And I'm just like,
he's like, God, he's been waiting for this moment.
What is he going to do? He turns and looks back at her and goes, so he does all his work and he's not disruptive. Lady, what's the fucking problem?
What the fucking problem?
This teacher just
goes, that would be
and just starts freaking out. And my dad holds a straight face for like 5 seconds and then just goes, and he looks at me and says, "No more of that shit at school. Is that clear?" "Yes, Dad, I got it." I didn't swear at school anymore. It was against the rules and it was considered disrespectful of the teacher and what was going on.
Yeah.
So I stopped. That was the expectation for me. That was the same expectation I had with my kids. I was like, look, the rules at school say you can't swear. So don't swear where they can hear you and you're going to get in trouble for it, and be respectful the same way that I've always asked you to be.
Yeah. That's
my perspective on it. And it worked amazingly well. And it prevented a huge number of what I remember watching some of my friends and their kids just in these giant punishment fights over somebody saying damn once
or bullshit
or using the word hell.
Oh yeah. That's a big one down
hell.
south.
That's a bad word, man.
Yeah, I can't be saying that down south here.
What the hell are you
Taysmart said it, and this is where we sit, is they said good luck on finding out every time they swear.
Right.
And that's where my wife and I have sort of landed on it with our youngest. Like, no, you can't swear, and we don't have
young.
that line of you can swear but not at someone. It's just, no, you can't swear. And what we want to, because we know that eventually he's going to, maybe he already does even with his friends on the playground, right? And they're going to. And our whole thing has always been, don't swear around us, right? Or other adults, because when you grow up in life, you're going to need to know how to have conversations that require different vocabulary, right? We can say motherfucker on here and it's no big deal. But if you say that in a job interview, it's probably not going to be the best thing.
Well,
it depends on what job you're going for.
Thank you. Yeah.
Not a good look.
And so we've always just pushed like like if you're going to swear with your friends, you're on the same page, that's fine. But you also need to know when it's appropriate and when it's not.
Mhm.
And when it's not is, at home at the dinner table with your grandma, like, it just kind of comes up, in random situations. But
Yeah, yeah.
but for now, at least with the youngest, it's no, you can't swear. Well, you
Steve,
just did. I'm an adult. When you get older, you can
make
make
your
that
own
choice
decisions.
yourself. Yeah.
I totally
Yeah,
get where you're coming from, but the whole comment about your grandmother, I had a grandmother that used to say things like, "Come on over here and pull up a thumb." I mean,
Sure. We and grandma swears too, but I don't want my kids swearing around their grandparents. And that's, again, that's a line that,
Mhm.
whether or not same thing with our Australian friends in chat, right? Sometimes and my other friend, I just have to have my son mute them when we're all in Discord together, because I can't even trust them not to swear, even when they're
Yeah,
trying not to. But I don't want my kid to swear around. I think you had mentioned, right? Like, other people, you don't know what other people's families are, what their kids are
Mhm.
like, what even when you get as an adult, you need to be able to not cuss around other people and
Yeah.
understand those situations.
Until you can learn to read the room and know kind of what's allowed at different areas, then it's probably not a
yeah,
good idea to just,
and
yeah,
and
let them
kids aren't
fly.
good at that.
No,
Right.
no, they're
And so
terrible.
at very least, we just draw a hard line
Sure,
so
sure.
that they have to control themselves during certain times, because we know they're not going to at others.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I
I
would say
mean,
that that's just as reasonable an expectation. The same way that if I knew that like other family or friends of my kids had rules like that, I would do my best to abide by those parents' rules, simply because
Mhm.
I don't want to send their kid home from a weekend at my house
Right.
where every third word that comes out of their mouth is a swear word. Then, because then, even if my son or my daughter might have enjoyed their company, they're never going to be allowed back if that's the circumstance.
Yeah.
We don't
Oh,
want
Yeah.
that either.
I mean, magic words from my uncle were horse shit and bullshit. And if, as a child, yeah, as young as you wanted to be, 2, 3, 4, if you said those words, he would give you candy, right? Because he thought it was hilarious to then send all of his nieces and nephews
oh
home
no.
saying horse shit and bullshit. And so,
Oh.
eh, yeah, I don't know where, I'm not going anywhere with that,
Yeah.
but
No, that
I
was
think
far enough. That's entertaining as
I think
hell.
as
Yeah.
far as swearing goes, I think I have a very similar mindset to Mr. Cool over here, because I mean, we don't want our youngest saying it, and like Gavin can kind of get away with damn, but like that's it. My daughter, being 17, she can get away with a little more, but don't do it. Don't be it's kind of mixed. Don't be disrespectful with it. Don't talk to each other that way. Damn sure don't talk to me that way.
Right.
But I mean, like you said, you never, like they're saying, he's in chat. Good luck. Because they're gonna do it. You're never gonna find out, and you're gonna hear it one day. It's like, okay, like eventually it's just like whatever. I'm too old to fuck with this anymore. But it's pretty similar. So I'm not gonna drag it on.
Yeah. And one thing that about that whole idea of, as you don't know how the other parents, if you have someone over your house or something like that, that's a big thing. And that kind of leads into one question I had here about, how do you feel when someone tries telling you how to parent? Like, let's say you're at the playground and someone says like, hey, maybe you should try doing this, or maybe they just go
Maybe
like,
you should
hey,
fuck off.
you're doing that wrong. Yeah. Yeah,
Well,
This one's easy.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I
Yeah, no,
feel like
you already know what I was
that's going to
saying,
be
yeah.
every parent's response ever.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
maybe you can fuck off.
well, the other part that goes with that is it also depends on how respectfully that parent is presenting
Okay.
their suggestion. If they're coming up to you and saying, "Hey, I've noticed your kids doing this. My kids used to do that a whole lot too. I tried this and it seemed to really work." I am more than willing to listen to someone else's suggestions, because I don't want to have to reinvent the fucking wheel. I really don't. But the difference is this is a suggestion. It worked for me. Maybe you want to try it. It's up to you.
Mhm.
Versus, hey, you're fucking doing that wrong. Quit that right now. No, you're going to get the exactly like you said. You can go fuck yourself kind of thing.
Well,
yeah.
I had a group of
real
friends.
quick, just on that, I feel like the kind of person that offers a suggestion is never someone that is that respectfully offering a
Oh, not usually.
suggestion.
Yeah.
Not usually. No,
So-
you're absolutely
So
right.
almost 100% of the responses, you can go fuck yourself,
I'm
even
sure
if they're
generally comes from an idea of like arrogance, you know?
Yeah, because if they're right, then
Yeah.
you're just mad because they're right, and they can still go fuck.
Yeah, they might be right too. They might be right, but like, fuck off. I got shit going on. Okay.
I had a group of friends. None of them had kids. Like my friend Ryan grew up with nieces and nephews, and they all lived at the house, whatever. But none of them had kids. Lloyd had a baby. Like he had a baby, like baby. So he didn't have what I had. And they're all telling me how I'm too soft on him. I'm like, he goes, well, my dad, whenever I didn't want to shower, he took me outside, hosed me down with cold water. I had to stay outside. I'm like, that's abuse.
Sounds terrible.
That's
Like,
called
that's
abuse.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
and Brian was like, well, you know, my dad, every time he had a problem, he just put a foot straight to ass, knock you down, and kick your ass every time you try to get up. I was like, still
Yeah,
abuse.
that's why you're a piece of shit, Ryan. And I'm trying to.
Thank you. I was like,
Sorry.
all of you guys, with the exception of Lloyd, because he kind of gets it, but the rest of you guys have no kids.
Yeah.
Maybe been around them. Jake, you've not been around kids. Shut the fuck up. But how are you going to tell me how to be a parent? You're not a goddamn parent. Like,
Never.
what you say doesn't mean a fucking thing to me.
Nothing.
You have
But I
no
listened to a
shared
podcast
experience.
on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we'll listen to a podcast, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that like I said, this was pretty easy. Yeah. For the most part, eat my ass. Don't talk to me.
Yep.
And then, like I said, there have only been maybe once or twice in my entire life that I felt somebody was coming to me respectfully enough to say, hey, this worked for me. Don't know if it'll help for you. You know, and it's more about, I'm not telling you what to do with
Mainly
your
my
kids.
wife.
I'm telling you
yeah.
what worked with mine. Maybe and usually my buddy Rob was one of those ones that came to me about this. And he says, and he's got kids. He's got kids. He had 3 at that point already, all daughters. And I was having problems with my daughter. And I was beside myself. I couldn't figure out what to do about this particular behavior. And Rob just literally went, oh, what's going on? So I told him. He's like, oh, you just need to change the way you're talking to her right here. Trust me, it'll work.
Yeah. Well, but see, that's
Absolutely,
different, right?
100%.
It's not
Talk-
it's not some stranger at
Yeah.
that point.
Talking to someone for advice. Well,
Yeah,
one,
yeah.
you've already picked out an individual, right? So you're probably not going to go to one of your friends that doesn't have kids,
Yeah,
and
shit.
you know, so yeah, I mean, there's definitely conversations with other parents, and they say, oh yeah, my little asshole did the same thing, and here's how we fixed it, right? But yeah, otherwise
Otherwise,
anybody.
Karen at
anybody's-
the playground.
If a Karen happens,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fuck you. And I feel like
rogue
most
Karen.
parents, and then probably the reason it doesn't happen that much is most parents feel the same way,
Mhm.
right? They're gonna say, well, and fuck you if you come talk to me about it, so I'm not gonna come talk to you about it either.
Like if my kid's being an asshole pushing a kid down, like, hey man, you know, your kid's kind of pushing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
I'll be like, oh, got you, bro, no problem. I'll go handle the situation, but don't come up to me that you should really do this or this. Then shut up.
Just
Don't come
point
get
out
with me.
point out the behavior. Oh shit, I didn't see that. I need to go correct that. And they let you handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, the difference is for that, I'm a mandatory reporter, guys, based on what I've done for that. I see something that I see is absolute abuse going on. I am done.
Me and you both.
Yep.
We have to. We have
100%
foster
done.
and adopting.
Well, and
We
that's good.
absolutely have to, and that doesn't expire.
Can you
Yeah.
guys explain that?
A mandatory reporter
go ahead,
is
yeah.
someone who has medical personnel tend to be all mandatory reporters. What that means is that if you see somebody that is actively abusing a child or another person, you are legally obligated by your training to report that abuse. Now,
And that does not have an expiration date. That
Nope.
goes on forever because you made that commitment. So he's
Mhm.
absolutely correct.
Yep,
Interesting.
and-
Okay.
I'm the same
and
way.
the difference is that there is a big difference between somebody disciplining their child and abusing their child.
Mhm.
Completely.
I see
Yeah.
somebody swat somebody on the ass because the kid's being a little asshole. That's not abuse. I watch somebody backhand same kid for that. Somebody's probably going to the hospital because I will lose my goddamn cool over that.
Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, dude. My fucking wife's best friend's son, you know, he was sitting at the table with us playing Dungeons and Dragons. We're all just sitting there playing some D&D, and he smarted off to his stepdad, and he goes, "You said like, I'm gonna knock you backwards in your chair," and I kind of leaned back and I went, "Really? You're gonna knock him backwards?" I was like, "How's Angie gonna? His wife? I was like, how's she gonna feel about that?" I was like, "And imagine how she's gonna feel that I got to you before she did if you knock him backwards." And his face just white as hell. Needless to say, I closed my books. I got my daughter and we left. But yeah, because I've known Aiden way longer than this motherfucker has. I've known Aiden since he was 2.
Mm-hmm.
He's been his stepdad for 2 years. I've known him since he was 2. You know what I mean? So I mean, nah. And this is a question I had for you two. Did you guys ever let your parents discipline your kids?
Nope.
Ever?
Oh, that is a good question.
Absolutely not. And I say that based on the fact that both of my parents had serious addiction issues for long periods of time and did not know what they were doing raising me. Now they are both clean and sober a very long time now, but they didn't have a clue what they were doing, what the difference between discipline and actual abuse was, mainly because they weren't taught what real discipline was even from their own parents. And I made it very clear to my parents that if they had an issue with something that my kid did, they bring it to me
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
they let me handle that. Because if they handled it the way they handled it with me, then I was going to be in a fist fight with my dad or I was going to be slapping my mom around. And I don't want to do either of those fucking
We're going hands on.
I don't look, there are very few things that I choose to get absolutely violent about, but somebody putting their hands on a child in an abusive manner is something that will set me off to the point where somebody's going to jail, somebody's
Yeah.
going to the hospital.
Yeah, I think most right-minded dads would, parents would feel the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would hope they would.
Yeah, I hope so, right?
And the parents thing, it hasn't really come up. We live, a 8-hour drive away from both our families, and so they see them when they're with us. It's not like they stay at grandma's for a couple nights or anything like that very often, and so it really just hasn't come up. But it would be the same, right? It would be but I also I have a completely different upbringing, and my parents were great, and I trust them to and they're not going to hit them or anything like that. So it's I trust them at least to an extent, to at least keep them in line if they're being dicks.
Right.
But also it's such a different dynamic too, because like I said, with us it's a vacation when they're hanging out with them, and so it's so different in like they don't want to have to punish or anything
No.
either. So they're like, hey, your kid's being a jerk, come get him. They want someone else to deal with it because they want to be the fun grandparent, for the time they get.
Yeah.
And so it's just a different dynamic that I don't have to deal with in that regard at all. Yeah. But yeah, nobody parents your kid but you, or
Shouldn't be.
Mhm.
Hmm.
That was a really good question, Chuck. That was awesome. I wish I would have written that down, but you
Write
can
it-
you can have credit for that one. That was
Write
real
it
good.
down
Like,
now
well, my
as
dad-
stuff that got answered.
Well, I mean, the reason I ask, because I wouldn't say necessarily recently, it was 4 or 5 years ago, I guess. Gabriel was real little, and my dad had come to see us. My dad slept in the living room instead of the guest room that we set up for him. Well, Gabriel, being a kid, bloop, turns on TV. He'll get some toast. He'll get some whatever. And he's running around having a good time playing with his grandpa, but the grandpa went to sleep. I'm like,
Then get in the room you were
then
prepared
go to
for
the
you.
fucking room. Like, he lives here. You don't. And so he walked by and he grabbed it and he grabbed the sword. He left the mark. And I about fucking went hands on. I was like, you don't fucking touch him. I was like, if you have a problem with what he's doing, you go to the damn room that I set up for you so this doesn't happen. I was like, don't just sleep in here and then get pissed when he comes in here to live his life.
Yep.
And never had another problem.
And it's also, I think, for me, a more difference between the generational gap on that.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, there is. Yeah, definitely so.
the older your parents happen to be, the more certain levels of punishment were considered acceptable.
Yeah.
That would never be considered acceptable
Right.
nowadays in any way, shape, or form. And that was more of what
Bingo.
my concern with my parents were. The fact
Right.
that if I will say this flat out, if either of my parents were still drinking, they wouldn't be allowed anywhere near my
Right.
kids in any way, shape, or form, simply because I remember how my dad was when he was drinking. I didn't want him around me, let
Yeah.
alone, let alone someone that I'm responsible for protecting. Now, they've both been sober. My mom celebrated like 38 years earlier this last week.
That's
hell yeah.
insane.
My dad's at like 41 at this point now.
Holy
Okay.
shit.
So it's not like this was a huge portion of my own life, but the person that my two older brothers, who are 10 years or just shy of 10 years older than I am, describe as my dad, and the man I knew, having sobered up when I was 2.5, are two totally different people.
Yeah, my grandfather's the same way. My mom is 15 years younger than her oldest sibling, and he drank and was abusive to her older siblings. Got nailed in the head with a garage door one day and never had a drink again. But yeah, I mean, completely different person, and yeah, my mom never knew that side of him. And so obviously I never did either, but it's crazy to hear stories, of someone that you've known your whole life as being a completely different person. And that's kind of what we talked about earlier. I mean, when I eventually tell my kids some of the stories of shit I've done, it'll probably blow their minds.
Oh,
Yeah.
dude, yeah.
My dad, I will say it flat out. The thing that my dad said is that he's like, the fact that your two older brothers both are willing to still have a relationship with me at all is one of those things that I am happier about than anything else. Because if they decided tomorrow that they never wanted to see me again, I've earned that. I've already earned that in my life for the way that I raised them and treated them when I was a drunken piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've earned that. And the fact that they are still willing to have something to do with me at all, I'm grateful for, totally grateful for. I don't deserve it, and I just kind of looked at him because this is the guy that I looked up to, that I love very much, that was a kind-hearted, loving, wonderful man. And I just can't see it because I never really experienced it. And then my brothers start telling me stories, and it's just like, Dad? And they're like,
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
get a half a dozen beers into him, and that's exactly who he is again. And he knows it's why he's never going to drink again. I mean, my dad's also the guy who would tell you, you throw away the lid off the bottle of Everclear once you open it, because what do you need that for again?
Yeah.
God damn.
Yeah. But when he stopped drinking, his maintenance dose a day was a 30-pack and a fifth of Everclear. And he was putting a capful and a half of Everclear into every beer.
Yep.
Wow.
I didn't get that far. That's impressive. But yeah.
My dad looked at me when I said, I could never drink like that. I just get too hungover. And my dad's like, well, I never got hangovers. And my mom at that point said, it's because you didn't draw a sober breath for 30 goddamn years.
Right.
Yeah, I can't have hangovers if you're always drunk.
Now, here's a question I do have for you guys. Have your adopted kids, I guess. I mean, I guess it wouldn't work in Mr. Cool's situation, but yours, have they had contact with their bio parents? Because
yes.
I say this because my daughter, when I got her records, I was going through her medical records, and I saw my Tanya and Bobby Shockley on there. I'm like, that's my goddamn pastor, because I was a Christian at the time. Call him up. I was like, have you ever adopted or foster? He goes, no. I was like, funny, you're on an emergency record of a certain person. He goes, are we talking like pastor to you or just like Charlie to Bobby? We'll go Charlie to Bobby for this one. He goes, is her name Star? I said, it is. He's her uncle.
That's
My pastor.
wild.
I met my daughter some 6 years before I even knew who the hell she was. Her parents had the rights taken. They got the rights back. They're going to church. I shook my daughter's hand when she was like 8.
It's crazy.
Not knowing that.
nuts.
That was gonna be my daughter later. Lo and behold, she wants to get in contact. Not so much her mom, but her dad. So I guess later this month we have a meeting. First time since she was 7 or 8, seeing her dad.
Wow.
Do you know anything about the biological parent that you're talking
Yes,
about at this point?
yes. I know her mom was, I don't know if she still is, was real bad on drugs. Her dad was kind of on drugs, more of a drunk, but her dad tried more, but he was just a kid himself. You know what he's doing. He did admit he has drinks with his bosses after work, whatever. But he hasn't touched drugs or anything in years, and he still goes to meetings. His new wife goes with him to meetings because she was an addict, and he's doing pretty well for himself. He actually sent her like an old school tattooing everything for her birthday
Wow.
because he's tattooed.
Well, I will say it flat out that for my daughter, she decided when she turned about 16, 17 that she wanted to have contact with her dad. And I, at that point, sat down with her and discussed with her what her dad was, how her dad was, and what that was going on to make sure that she wasn't just blindly trying to reach out to somebody that she didn't really know who that was. My daughter's father has spent more of her life in prison than out of it.
Yep.
He's a constant issue where it's every time that he'd get out of prison, he'd be out of prison for 6 months, 8 months, as long as he kept going to his meetings and dealt with the program.
Doing the program.
He'd be okay. He'd be okay. But then the moment that he stopped doing that, he would fall off the wagon, be right back into the meth that was his drug of choice. And then, I'm sorry, I don't care who you are. If you're on meth, you're a piece of shit. You have turned yourself into... it's death powder. The shit is death powder, and all it does is destroy people.
That's the exact reason we no longer have any contact with my father.
Well, and
so many things growing up now
make a lot more sense now.
So much more sense. It's like, that's what that was.
And so my daughter reached back out and she had contact with him. And in the few times that she had contact with him were during those periods of time where he was out of prison and involved with the program, trying to keep himself on the wagon. The last time she had contact with him, he showed up to our house after he'd started using again. And I went outside and I just looked at him and said, look, man, you can't be here if you're like this. And he's like, you can't tell me what to do. I said, no, you're right. I can't tell you what to do. But understand that I don't have a problem spending the rest of my life in prison, having ended you to protect my daughter from the damage that you're going to do to her coming around her like this. And he kind of looked right at me and I said, you made the choice. Don't fucking come around here if you're on meth. If you're using, don't come around. If you're clean, call and we will find out whether or not my daughter wants to have anything to do with contact.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you're using and you show up here again, I am going to end you. You will be done and I will go to prison for the rest of my life if that's what has to happen. I'm okay with that. You know, and he kind of looked at me and he turned around and he got back into the car that he'd gotten a ride here with and left. And we didn't hear another word from him for damn near 5 years. And he did another 2 or 3 year bid in prison during that time period. And then when he called back at that point, he said, look, I'd like to see Janelle. And I was like, she doesn't want to see you. She's not interested in maintaining a relationship with you anymore. She's tried over and over again. And you have made your choice over and over and over again that your drugs are more important to you than your child. And because that's the way that is, I will not force that kind of a situation in any way, shape, or form, regardless of how clean you are now.
It wouldn't be fair.
No, I'm
Right.
not going to do that. You can't come around. And if you do, understand that I'm
option.
just going to call the police and I'm going to have you removed from my property for trespass. Don't come around here. Now, my middle boy, my middle child, my oldest son, Craig, if I had met his father in any other way than he is my wife's ex-husband, I'd be good friends with the man.
Oh, dude.
So it's a night and day
Yeah.
difference
Damn
right
it.
there. You know, I'd be good friends with him, but you're my wife's ex-husband. That just does not
it
work.
doesn't work.
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work, and I'm not even going to make that weird that way at all because it
Yeah.
just doesn't.
Yeah. Sorry, bro. We can't be bros.
My youngest dad is another one of those ones that I personally feel was seriously abusive, not physically, but entirely mentally and psychologically and socially to my youngest son. And because of that, he's the kind of person that I, you know, to be vulgar, I wouldn't piss on him to put him out if he was on fire.
Oh, fuck no.
You know, you
Yeah.
don't
Well, and see,
do everything you can to undermine a
And-
child's self-esteem to make yourself feel better, to make their life harder. That is not something an adult should ever consider doing. Yet this is what he did constantly,
Disgusting.
over and over and over. He disgusts me, and I want nothing to do with it.
it's crazy, and it's funny that you said that because I feel like her biological dad, like if he's clean, I feel like I could be friends with this dude. And my wife was like, so she can have two dads. I'm like, oh shit. But like whenever he got off the phone talking to her, even to this day, even you know, they'll have a conversation. He'll be like, I love you. She'll be like, okay.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to force and I love you.
I told her, I was like, hey, if you want to say it, you can. And she goes, I'm not there yet. Okay.
Fair enough.
She may never be. You know?
She may know him as fucking Levi.
Yep. And there's nothing wrong
And
with
she
that
looked at me,
either.
she grabbed my face. She's like, you will always be my dad. He is not my dad. He lost that right.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, we bitch and we argue and we're always at each other's throat sometimes, but I am never going to choose him over you.
All three of my
When
kids.
she left, I teared up a little. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. All three of my kids, they have an issue, they have a problem, they need to talk about something. They're not calling their bio dad.
Right.
Yeah, they're calling you.
They come to me because I'm the one who's been there for them throughout all of this whole situation for the last been married to my wife 17 years. 21st of October was our 17th anniversary. So
Congrats.
yeah, it's awesome. It's the best 17 years of my life.
I thought I was doing good at 15. Damn, it's
I'm older than you though.
All three of you are doing better than me. So
Well, you were a boring kid, remember?
Yeah,
that's true.
boring
I
man.
was a
That's
boring
why
kid.
he's so interesting in like every game I've ever played with him. He's so interesting in the game because I guess he's a boring ass kid.
Yeah, I need an outlet to let out my interesting, but it has to be masked by a character.
You know why it is that most
great.
role players, the role players who play human as their show mainly their primary choice, right?
I do play human a lot.
He does.
It's either because their own home life was so boring that they ended up having to just pick something that's I'm not quite sure, or their own life is so personally out of control that they want some normal.
It's one extreme
one
or the other.
or the other.
I never thought of it that way, but you are
Damn, that makes sense.
Damn.
I've been running
I
D&D
just thought it was optimal.
I've been
It's
running
great.
D&D for 30 years now. I've never seen that one of those two things not be true.
That's awesome. That's yeah.
Well, I think we've been going on for about 2.5 hours here.
Sorry.
No, this was
I asked two
fantastic. You
questions
guys
that
are-
took a little bit longer than I thought they would.
they were great, dude. I just in respect for everyone's time, I think this would be a good place to kind of end it off. Do you want to do any like final thoughts from each of you?
Oh, it's a good idea.
Yeah, we'll start off with Cole. He's been
Yeah.
out of the loop here a little bit
Sorry, bro.
on that last question there.
My well, real quick. My family is gone for the weekend. I dropped them off at the airport this morning. They went to go visit some
Nice.
family. I mean, you guys should know this is a very rare occurrence. So I don't know what
House
I'm
to
gonna do. I'm
yourself.
just excited. That's why I have nothing to say about your point, except I figured a couple dads would want to be jealous and know that like I don't even know what I'm gonna do. I'm so I don't even know how I'm gonna get dinner. Right? Like,
Yeah.
but I'm excited.
He's
But
too
I'm
excited to do
excited
shit.
that I get to pick it. Right? That like
And nobody gets to be like, no, I don't want that.
Your family's gonna
Exactly.
come back and you're
Yeah.
gonna be like curled up in a corner eating like Ritz crackers.
I'm so excited.
That's
And
awesome.
maybe to that, right? Is like being a parent is fucking weird. It's hard.
Definitely.
And even though this weekend's gonna be awesome, like I already miss them, you know? It's stupid. But like I don't know. They create something in your life that you never knew that you couldn't live without
Yeah.
until you have it.
Mhm.
And that's partly why if people don't have kids, they don't get it. And you know, and dogs are not kids. If anyone fucking tells me once that, oh well, I have 2 kids, they're my like,
I'm a cat mom.
yeah, no, you're not a parent.
I've got to that. I've got animals that I deeply, deeply love, but I'm sorry, you're not my child.
Right.
You're not a
I
parent.
mean,
You're not a parent for cat for
if
pets.
my dog gets cancer and is suffering, I'm gonna put it down. If my kid does, I'm gonna
Take
like
him to the
literally
hospital,
kill
yeah.
myself to do everything possible to fucking save them.
Mhm.
There's a difference. And being a dad is the most difficult, rewarding thing that you could ever do with
I
your
have
life.
in my mouth.
I'm sorry.
No.
Wow.
Don't be. I love. No,
Uh,
come up with something.
The fact that all of us are thinking that exact same thing, that's
Yeah.
that's part of that brotherhood of being fathers.
It says
Or truly being a
says
dad.
a lot. It says a lot to our character as dads, not just as men, but as dads. It says a lot to our character because we kind of have the same way. Because like very obviously we have different ways of thinking, but when it comes down to the core, we think the same way.
You
For the most part.
protect your kids, you protect your family, and you want them to like literally never be unhappy.
I guess my final thoughts are enjoy it because it's gonna fly.
Oh fuck yeah.
I don't, and I know you hear that. I know it's a cliche, people say it all the time, but no, dude, enjoy it when you have it, and listen to what they're telling you. A lot of times, what they're telling you is not what they're saying to you.
Mhm.
Listen to your kids instead of no. Like, what is bothering you? What can I do to help you? So, I mean, and I'm not telling you how to parent your kids. It's just it's just a little bit of helpful advice that I have found that works. And dude, just love being around them because when they're gone, when they're doing this with their friends, we're gonna be like, damn, remember when they're just reminiscing. So
Yeah.
listen to your kids, enjoy the time that you have with them, and live your life with your kids.
The simple thing that I will say to bring this to for myself to a close is that take the time to listen, like you just said, but just simply be there for them.
Present. Yeah.
Be present. Be
Mhm.
aware that they're going to have problems, that there is nothing that you can do to help, and that the only thing that you're going to be able to do is to just be there for them so that
Agreed.
they can figure that problem out for themselves. Mine are 25, 23, and 21. And I took my daughter to preschool or to second grade last week, as far as I was concerned.
Yeah.
It goes so damn fast, and they are gone and out on doing their own thing so quickly. And I'm ecstatic. My daughter is successful at everything that she has really truly put her mind to, that she has wanted in her life. My sons are the same way. Doesn't mean that there aren't setbacks, and understanding that those setbacks are how they grow,
Yep.
just like us. I never learned things from the things I was good at right away. The things
Right.
that kicked me in the teeth a few times, I learned a ton from them.
It's funny how that works.
If you take those things away and wrap them in bubble wrap,
Yep.
they don't ever learn anything.
Dropping knowledge. This was an amazing conversation. I could not have asked for a better engagement from any of you. You guys are
I've
all
sent them
kick
friend
ass.
requests already.
Yeah. Yeah, this is great. My final thoughts, real quick, is I'm extremely jealous that you are all dads, and I am excited to go make babies. Is kind of where I'm at.
I
Yeah.
really thought you were about to be like, guess what?
Me too.
I
Oh,
thought that's
no.
what you're about to end with. I'm not
Damn,
lying.
that would be
I'm
good.
not
though.
lying.
That would have
That
been
would
good.
be
That-
good.
I was
That's
just so when you just did that,
definitely the
I was like,
mic
here
drop
comes,
if that
here
was the
comes.
case.
Yeah. Oh man, that is a good one.
Oh, man.
We'll get everyone back together again when I'm actually at.
Oh,
that
we have
point.
to.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We have
Well,
to,
now,
man.
but now you
Absolutely.
got to go get to fucking.
Yeah,
Leave the camera on
whoa.
and just keep
No,
that.
no. No.
Just keep the stream going.
Not.
We're gonna make you a dad.
Yeah, keep the headphones on to hear you cheering me on.
Hey,
Uh,
better than technique.
Yeah.
The hips drop,
You guys
not the
are
legs.
terrible. I am disappointed at the severe lack of dad jokes that was in this. But we hit some
I didn't even
we
think
hit
of
some
them.
heavy topics, and I think it was an important conversation. So real quick,
Therapy session.
before kinda.
a little bit.
Before we leave off, let's go down the line one more time and just let everyone know who you are and where they can find you. And I gave you all shout outs in the chat here. So we'll go other way around this time. We'll hit Chuck with the Underground Tavern.
Yep, Underground Tavern. It is coming soon. Just be on
Yeah.
the lookout. It's almost go time.
Yep, we're real close, huh?
Yeah, we are.
Awesome.
I stream under Mixed Nuts at Twitch on most days of the week, usually from about 10 o'clock in the morning Central Time till I got to pick my wife up from her welding job at 4 o'clock every afternoon. So,
That's badass.
Dude, hustles,
hot.
man. He is always on, dude.
hey, if you're going to make it work, you got to
Make it
put
work.
in the time.
You're
Yep.
doing the work, man, and it's something that I'm excited to model after now that I am home full time. It's good
Nice.
stuff.
Yeah.
And me, I stream under on Twitch and YouTube, Mystical, just for funsies. So
All
There we
right.
go. Awesome. Well, that'll be the end of the stream. Thanks everyone for hanging out, and W chatters, W sorry. W chatters, W subs, and yeah, I think that'll be it today.
W dads.
W dads.
Thanks for having us, Viva. This was great.
This was great.